All right. All right. I'm going to call the November 8th, 2021 council meeting to order. And I'll note that our mayor is sick and she's contacted me and asked me to chair the meeting tonight. So I will do that. I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
Councilmember Chance?
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Present.
Councilmember Stricula?
Here.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Here.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Here.
Mayor Grossman?
And I would like to acknowledge, I think I saw in the audience some of our council-elect members, Barbara Berry Spaeth and Mark Hackey. Welcome to our meeting tonight. And our prayer tonight is going to be by Chaplain Mark Champagne. If he would come forward and if we'd all stand and join him. Then we're going to have the colors posted and then we'll say the pledge after the colors are posted. Pastor.
Would you pray with me? Father God, we take a moment and humbly ask that you'd be here in our midst. We're reminded that we are created beings and contingent, and life passes by quickly. So help us to rule and speak with that in mind, also being aware that we are made in your image and have remarkable capacities to create and dialogue and legislate in a way that is for the good of the community. And these city council members, as public servants, we pray would aim to do just that. And so we ask again that you would be here in our midst and that you would see fit to guide and direct, and that those who serve would do so with kindness, with charity, and with grace. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I think we're going to have the colors. Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. And I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our October 25th council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor, if I can amend the minutes, make a motion to amend the minutes.
And the amendment is?
The email that we received from the city. I think we all got a copy of it. It was just the actual translated of what took place from the last meeting.
Do we need a second to? Is there a second to amend the minutes? So there's been a motion to amend the minutes to add a transcript from the October 25th meeting, and looking for, is there a second to amend that?
Second that.
So we got a motion and a second to amend. All in favor of the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
And are any opposed to the amendment? Do we need a roll call? Let's do a roll call. Yeah, let's do a roll call on that.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
All right, so that motion, so now we've got it, the minutes as amended, and is there approval on the amendment minutes as amended. Do we need a roll call on the? You'll need another roll call. Okay. All right. All in favor of the minutes as amended?
Yeah.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes will be approved. And we'll move on to the city manager's report. Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Have a couple of items here. First, council's meeting schedule. I want to suggest some alterations with the Thanksgiving holiday as well as the school fall break, some travel schedules that I'm aware of. I think that moving our November 22nd meeting to November 29th would be appropriate, as well as helpful to getting some of our end-of-year business accomplished. A motion to reschedule that meeting would be appropriate.
Is there a motion to reschedule the November 22nd meeting to November 29th?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Hanson?
Additionally, looking at the council schedule, by charter, council has a biennial organizational meeting that is always held on December 1st. So this December 1st would be the time for that meeting. What staff are preparing for, with council's consent, is on December 1st, a 5 p.m. reception with a 6 p.m. call to order for the meeting. We'd like to be able to do public notice and start making preparations for that. So if that's amenable to council members, I've checked with council members-elect, and I think that's suitable for them as well.
Is that appropriate? Do we need a motion to approve that?
Yes.
So is there a motion to approve that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, that motion will be approved.
A couple of other items to announce as we approach Thanksgiving. Reminder that Thursday, the 25th, and Friday, the 26th, city offices are closed for the holiday. The community center will be open on Thanksgiving Day from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. with limited services, and is open the normal hours the rest of that weekend. Would like to introduce American Legion Commander Mark Baseman, who I think will be able to tell us some about what to expect with Veterans Day ceremonies.
Sir, if you'd come to the podium and give us your name.
Good evening. My name is Mark Baseman, the commander of Mason American Legion Post 194, and we've been working with the city to schedule our Veterans Day ceremony here in the atrium on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. We've got a nice little ceremony set for everyone. We're partnering with the Southwest Ohio Philharmonic Orchestra, who's bringing us a 4-piece ensemble on Thursday afternoon. We'll be starting at about 4:45 with a harpist playing some nice background music for us. And then the brass ensemble will start about 5:15, with the actual ceremony starting with the posting of the colors at 5:30. We have a Navy commander with the Navy Reserve will be our guest speaker that evening. We'll also have comments from the members of the Board of Veterans Affairs here from the city. So we'll have some remarks from them. And a couple of nice patriotic songs accompanied by the Philharmonic as well. So it should be a nice ceremony.
Very good.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for the commander?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, back to you.
I got a few more items here. As the holidays approach, just a reminder that the city, in conjunction with the schools and Joshua's Place, take part in what's called the Mason Cares program. This is an opportunity where family or employees and departments gather supplies to provide holiday season for those that are in need within the community. As part of that, we'll be placing collection barrels in the Mason Community Center as well as this building, where members of the community as well as employees will be placing unwrapped toys, clothes, gift cards that will then be assembled and distributed to families that are in need. If anyone in the community is interested in partnering with the schools in the city, encourage them to take advantage of that. Many departments are adopting a family and trying to take care of their needs as part of that. If folks are interested in participating, they can contact the city to connect with Joshua's Place to participate in adopting their own families. A couple of other items. Kiwanis Pancake Day will be Saturday, November 13th. That takes place at the Mason Middle School from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. Area Progress Council is holding their Economic Outlook Breakfast on Tuesday, November 23rd. If any council members are interested in attending, please let us know. And then on Wednesday, December 1st, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the Community Center Shop local event, which features Mason area merchants and home sales representatives to provide some early shopping opportunities for folks. It's been, has a history now of being a very popular event. And then last item, Vice Mayor, I have a liquor permit. It is for Nishi Liquor LLC, doing business as Giant Liquor. And this is a liquor agency contract. Unlike the permits we typically have, a liquor agency contract allows them to sell specialty high-end liquors that they don't actually own, but they sell on a commission basis on behalf of the state liquor agency. Council can request a hearing or not request a hearing and do that via motion.
Is there such a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion not to have a hearing.
I'll second it.
All right, is there a motion and a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? That will be approved. There won't be no hearing then?
That's all I have, Vice Mayor. Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is recognition of visitors. I do note that we have 2 public hearings tonight, and so if you're here for the public hearings, you have an opportunity to address us in regard to those issues that for the public hearing. So I'd ask you not to come up for the recognition of visitors, but we would like to hear from anyone else that wants to speak to anything about council other than the issues that are on the agenda.
So there was a sign-in list.
Oh, there was?
Yep,
Okay, all right.
yep, and I have it here.
All right.
And just remind everybody, there is a 3-minute time allotment established by council. Signed up here is Ray Severson, Susie Lertzman, Sonia Milford are the first 3. If you'd come to the podium, state your name and address for council, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ray Severson, 6506 Rosewood Lane, Mason, Ohio. I've been a resident of this city for 18 years. I attended the city council meeting on October 11th. I arrived outside the city hall building here at 6 o'clock. The doors were locked. When they were unlocked, I was the first one to walk in the building to sign up. I was surprised to see Mrs. Pelfrey, the former mayor, already inside the building signing people up. She signed 8 people up to speak that night. I was the first one in the building to sign up, but I was the 9th one to speak. On October 12th, I sent an email to all members of City Council to Mr. Hansen at 1:16 p.m., and my concerns was how somebody could be allowed access to the building when other citizens were outside waiting. At 1:42, less than 30 minutes later, I received an email from Mrs. Pelfrey. She provided me her cell phone number and asked me to call her. I wondered, how did she get my email? So I sent it to 7 members of City Council and city manager. I did call her at 2:48 that day. We had a nice discussion on multiple issues, but I do have a trouble that a member of City Council decided to forward my email, my personal email, my concerns about the actual person of the subject, which was Mrs. Pelfrey, directly to her and didn't have the courtesy to get back to me or address me. I do want to thank Councilmember Chance. You did reply to me on October 12th. Thank you. You're the only member of City Council to get back to me. I do want to thank Mr. Hansen. We talked on the phone, and he talked to me, sent me an email the next day. During my discussions with Mrs. Pelfrey, she advised me that City Council member Bradburn was the person that forwarded my email to her. Councilmember Bradburn, you were elected to represent the citizens of Mason. Why did you, Mr. Council member, forward my email to that person who was the subject of my concern? But you didn't have the respect or courtesy to get back to me. I'll wait for your reply, Council member.
One, the email is public record. We had a complaint with Mrs. Pelfrey. I felt that you two should talk.
I'm sorry, you had a complaint with her and you what?
You had a complaint in regards to Mrs. Pelfrey. I related the email to her. I gave her your email address, and that was it.
And you had no, the thing was respectful or courtesy to get back to me, the citizen. I had one council member get back to me. You decided to forward my email to the person, the subject matter I was concerned about, But you didn't have the nerve to get back to me.
I called her with your email address, and she says, well.
And you think that's right to do that, to forward my personal email when I sent to council about a concern I have, but you feel it's more important to send that person as opposed to getting back to me, the citizen that you represent.
That email is public record.
It could be public record, I don't care, but you should have the nerve to get back to me, the citizen.
The complaint is between you and Mrs. Pelfrey.
No, the complaint is why she was allowed in this building that night before any other citizen was
I
allowed.
have no knowledge of it.
I don't say you do,
So-
but my concern was why.
So then don't you think you should talk to the person that you were concerned about?
No, I should count to city council that should have control of their building and their meetings. And it shouldn't have a city councilman forward my personal email to subject matter I was concerned about, and not have the respect or courtesy to send an email back to me saying, thank you, we'll look into it. Or, I don't reply to all my emails, but I, by God, don't forward mine to the person that the subject matter is about.
The one, I didn't forward it.
You just said you did.
I did not forward it, sir.
How did she get it then?
I told her. I did not forward the.
Well, I talked to her and she said she forwarded it. You forwarded the email
No,
to
I
her.
did not.
Well, then somebody's lying. It's either you or her. Again, mayor or vice mayor, I'm asking you, maybe we should have some kind of policy that council members get back to the citizens of this city and not forward or call people who are subject matter of concerns they have. Because I think it's disrespectful for a council member not to get back to citizens of this city, but rather to forward or contact the person the subject matter is about.
Okay. Well noted, well noted. We'll take your, thank you for your comments. Who's our next, do we have our next?
Susie Lurtzman. Sorry.
Are you?
Susie Lurtzman. And I apologize, it is a 5-minute time allotment, not 3.
Thank you very much. You all are used to me coming up and talking about all sorts of things. I got something new today. I'm very sorry the mayor is not here. I had called her almost 2 weeks ago, the number that was listed under her name in the website, and that came to here, and I spoke to someone, and they said they don't do the calendar for her. Okay, can you pass that on? Yes, I'll pass that on as soon as I can. Nothing back. I have a lot of in common with you, whoever just spoke. What I was going to talk to her about in private, now I'm going to bring it up here. It's not something easy to talk about. I would like to know why every single council meeting I've been to started with a Christian prayer. Anybody? Crickets? Bueller? Okay. As a member of a different religion,
I'll address that. Yeah, we've had, oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, we've had,
Councilmember Chance.
we've had plenty of denominations come in.
Christian
Maybe-
denominations,
No, there's been Jewish, we've had rabbis.
pagan. How about atheists represented?
Well,
How
here's my
about
stance on it.
Muslims?
Here's
How
my
about the
stance.
Indian folks?
The tenets of the prayer is, in my view, is something that we're praying for good stuff, regardless of if you believe in the deity or
But
whatever.
if you're going to have one religion represented, you need to have all of them.
Which we have in the past. I'm just telling you, it has been, we have in the past. And we
So if I
job.
get numbers to, I don't know right now, I think I've got about 15 different religions. If I get people to come and speak, they can come and do prayers as well. We'll just have a little chain of prayers.
But, Vice Mayor, I may be able to add a little bit. Typically, how those have occurred, since we began, the city does have a chaplains program that is open to any house of worship within the city with someone that would willing to participate in the program. That is where we draw from for prayers at the council meeting. So yes, there have been Muslim, there have been Jewish, there have been Christian, there may have been others I'm not aware of. but we pull from that program.
So I would need to speak to a chaplain to get the correct?
I think if someone's interested in joining the chaplains program, absolutely contact the city.
They have to join the chaplains program in order to speak. Even though the last meeting we had someone who pontificated.
They come from the chaplains program is how we pull those out.
Okay. If I could get you to forward me some of that information so I know who to get in contact with who, that would be lovely. I don't know where the chaplains program is.
Our police and fire departments use the program, usually on calls when there's a need for counseling.
But if someone wants to join that program,
They could
who would they contact?
police or fire could contact my office. We'll direct them.
Okay, I'll give them your number. Thank you very much. I look forward to more even kind. Did someone just say sit down? I see you're not brave enough to actually show who you are.
Ms. Lordsman, is there anything else you want to address to council?
No, I'll be writing letters to all of you and to our state representatives and to every clergy I can find around Mason, because I think it's crap. And I think under this particular constitution, something about not having an institutionalized government religion and not allowing, allowing the free exercise of all religions, not just Christian, not just mainstream. Thank you very much. I'll go now.
Thank you, Ms. Lordsman.
I'll be back.
Jennifer, if you call her.
Sonia Milrod. And then after that, we have Malini Chala. I probably totally messed that name up.
Hey, Sonia Milrod, 4270 Fontenay, Mason, in the Maryville condo development. Vice Mayor Gelb and council members, do you know what the citizens of Mason are saying now that you have passed the Sanctuary City for the Unborn Ordinance? You should, based on the results of the recent election, when incumbents T.J. Honerlaw and Mike Gilb were roundly rejected by voters. T.J. was dead last, and Mike was barely above him, each of them getting under 7% of the vote. But we do know that other factors also did enter into that vote. T.J.'s unpaid taxes, the rushed downtown development, not listening to the public and downtown businesses. So how much was their defeat due to the unpopularity of the Sanctuary City for the Unborn Ordinance? With assurance, I can answer a lot. I am one of 45 people circulating referendum petitions. In 9 days, we have gotten 1,100 signatures. I have gotten 125 signatures myself, going door to door in my condo development, Maryville, and also spending 3 hours outside Mason Community Center. I've knocked on every door in my condo development. Here is what I heard as those homeowners eagerly signed the petition. My staunchly conservative Republican neighbor said, "This is the first time I am agreeing with you on a political question. This is an egregious overreach by government." And then we sat there talking for about 15 minutes about all the things we disagree on, but 100% agreement on that. Several said, "This is a ridiculous ordinance. What can council have been thinking? Religion has no place in making decisions on council." Another said, "I have been watching council on live stream, and I'm totally disgusted. I can't wait for the new council to come in to overturn this." My elderly neighbors, those even older than I am, were especially upset. They recalled the days when abortion wasn't legal and the dire consequences for women. They said, "Women have always found a way to get an abortion," and the results were often horrendous. I left notes on the doors of all the residents not home. I'm still getting texts and emails asking me to come back so they can sign. I also spent 3 hours outside the Mason Community Center. I spoke to every random resident entering the community center. I spoke with 45 people who were registered in Mason to vote, and 39 of those 45 were eager signatures. The most frequent questions were, "Can't the new council overturn this?" "I voted for new council. Aren't they going to rescind this?" Chance, Spaeth, Nelson, and Hake didn't like the ordinance. Why do we need a referendum? "I voted for a new council. I expect them to rescind it." Clearly, the voters have spoken.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Sonia. I didn't know I'd be following you after this. Hi, I'm Nalini Chawla, 3760 Woodburn Drive, and I was last here on October 11th to speak against the abortion ban ordinance that the City Council had a first reading and passed it. And what I heard at that time was a group of City Council members saying how they have a right to legislate morality. And I came here to tell you, number one, morality means different things to different people. Number two, it is a very diverse community that we live in. And don't assume that those who are against the legislation are a vocal minority. As Sonia just pointed out to you what the election results have shown. And I know there was a lot of conversation here about how all the people who come here to speak are a vocal minority. And I came to tell you all that, you know what, I didn't even know who my City Council members were until I learned what was happening in City Council. And yes, I voted, and yes, I asked all my friends to vote, people who had voted for the first time in an off-year local election, and they are not going to go away. Now I'll go back to my many, many different definitions of morality. I come from India. In India, the liberals are the ones who are against abortion. You'd wonder why? Why? That doesn't make sense. Actually, there is good reason. The reason why the liberals are against abortion is often abortion is used to force the woman into a forced abortion of the female fetus. And they want this because often the more traditional male members want another male heir and another male child, and the woman is forced into a forced abortion. That is where the liberals, to protect the women and the numbers of the women and the strength of the women, are arguing against abortion. The government's come up with a good solution of this, and what they have illegalized is sex determination and not abortion. However, the point of this is that anyone who is trying to think that they can decide for the woman is trying to force morality, and that does not work. And that is what I want you all to know, is the important thing is to leave the decision of what is important and what matters to the person who has the right to make that decision. So, I'm glad that the results of the November 2 election were conclusive on where we stand as a city, and who we are as a people. And thank you.
thank you for your comments. And is there, Mr.
Next up, we have Jenny Keeler, followed by Eva Schneiderman, then Katie Hauer, and then Noble Johnson.
Hello.
I'm Jenny Keeler. My address is 4321 Shore Drive, Mason. I want to congratulate Council Members Nelson and Chance on their reelection, and also congratulate Council Members-elect Hakey and Spaeth. The four of you garnered some of the highest vote totals in Mason City Council history. You ran good campaigns, and your recent actions and speeches to stand up against Kathy Grossman's failing four are admirable. In just a few weeks, you'll have a majority and thankfully can decide a new mayor. While I congratulate you on your hard work and applaud you, I'm up here tonight to remind you that your positive qualities weren't the only reason you were elected. Your supporters were bolstered by people who showed up to vote against Kathy and her cronies. They were inspired by their overwhelming dislike and their embarrassment over the circus that current council has been reduced to. And even that's an insult to circus performers. Being people who showed up to vote because they're fed up with city leaders pulling stunts to push their personal agenda and that of their spouses instead of doing what's right for the community. People showed up to vote because they're tired of council members using their seat to attempt to gain status in their party and to attempt to earn favor for their planned runs for higher office instead of doing what's right for the community. I guess that backfired. People showed up to vote because they're outraged that their rights and those of their daughters are being trampled on by people who force their religious beliefs on others instead of doing what's right for the community. It's a community that's religiously diverse, educated, and looking forward, not back. They showed up to vote for common sense candidates. And common sense would tell you that allowing this abortion ban to stand ties Mason to an extremist organization from Texas as long as the ordinance is in effect. It discriminates against women. It hurts businesses trying to recruit and retain diverse talent. It conflicts with Ohio code, as we've pointed out. And it's a gross overreach of council. So by that common sense logic, the best remedy is to repeal 2021-108 at your very first opportunity. Show the people who voted for you and delivered a shellacking to the failing four that you hear their vote and that you'll have their back, following up with common sense action. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms.
Eva Schneiderman.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Do I need to introduce myself? I think you know me by now.
I think so.
Zoveva Schneiderman, 3523 Surrey Lane. And I think I'm just going to echo a couple of the comments that my colleague have said. And Mr. Honorlaw, I would appreciate if you would not roll your eyes when people are speaking. Thank you. So, Mr. Honorlaw, again, and Mr. Gilb, I think that community has spoken. You have been voted out. And not by a close margin, by a landslide. 3 out of the 4 residents voted against you. And it should signal to you that you do not represent this community, and this community does not want your decisions. This community recognizes that you have misused your position and that you have not kept best interest of this community in mind. Your behaviors and your decisions were not supportive of betterment of this community and local businesses. Mrs. Nelson, Mr. Chance, Mrs. Spade, and Mr. Haki, congratulations. All of us hope that you will bring this community together and that you will continue to being connected to the beat of our town and that you will stay connected to the community and people who live and work in here. In the council's last meeting, the portion of this council passed the Anti-Abortion Ordinance. Those who were in favor of this ordinance and were up for election were soundly voted out. Even if this ordinance goes into the effect, it is unenforceable, unconstitutional, and its legality is questionable under state and federal laws. I have been canvassing around Mason past weekend, just like my colleagues did, and I have to echo all of the comments that have been said. All of the people and majority of the Mason residents signed the ordinance who I have talked to think that this is gross overreach of the council members. Most of the residents do not want this ordinance to be on the docket even. So I'm asking new members of this community to rescind this ordinance as soon as possible. This is not the place of this council to legislate morality upon many and many different people in this town. We all know that Roe v. Wade is going to Supreme Court. We all know that. That's a beast on the table. So you have two options. If it stands, you still cannot enforce this ordinance regardless of the outcome of the referendum. And if it fails, then it doesn't matter. You don't need this ordinance because United States, Ohio, and Mason will join the most autocratic regimes in the world and the most disrespectful law when it comes to reproductive health. So our town after COVID pandemics needs a little bit of restart. We need to develop downtown. We need to build infrastructures. We need to build bike paths. We need to build sidewalks. We need to support our schools. We need to attract new businesses. And we need to bring arts back into this community. All of us want to be in Mason, to be top choice town to live and love in United States. And we do not need unnecessary politics and politicians to meddle in the private lives of our citizens. So please consider all of the facts that I have told you, and please rescind this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Katie Hauer.
welcome if you state your name and address for the...
Yes, I'm Katie Hauer, 5405 Harvestdale Drive, and I have been a member of the Mason community for over 25 years. Some of my concern has been previously addressed, but I still would like to have my say. So first of all, congratulations to the members that were reelected to council and to those who will be new to our council. I think, as others have stated, a very clear message has been sent by the community. I hope the election showed council what many of us have known for a long time, and that is that Mason is changing and progressing. We are indeed a diverse community. We are a community of many different ages, genders, races, ethnicities, religions, etc. You can't pay lip service to diversity and appreciating diversity while alienating whole sections of our town. One quick and easy change would be to eliminate the use of prayer at the beginning of the meeting. As others have said, yes, we have many Christians in Mason, but we also have many Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, agnostics, atheists. I could go on. There's really no reason to open a public government meeting with a prayer. I've been a teacher in a public school for 33 years, almost. And I've never opened my class with a prayer. We say the pledge every morning as a school, but we do not open the school day with a prayer. I definitely pray every morning before school starts, but that's on my own time. Sometimes I need to pray multiple times during the day, especially lately. But I would never pray in front of my students or lead my students in prayer, because that would be a very clear violation of the Establishment Clause. I see no reason why council continues this practice in 2021. I expect council to keep their prayers private and to get to the city's business at hand. We all know there is much work to be undone and done, so let's get busy. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Heft?
Mr. Noble Johnston?
I hope everybody can hear me because I couldn't hardly hear what was going on. I don't know whether the speaker's volume's not up enough or what, but anyhow. My name's Noble Johnston. I live at 310 Southwest Street. My main concern here tonight is I want to thank our city manager. I'm not here to argue about all your banning and all that stuff. I'm here to compliment the city manager for taking up my job, my project, and doing what needed to be done. I want to publicly thank him. For people that live here a long time, I've lived here since 1940. Does that tell you how old I am? I got very few things to say. In fact, I got just one more thing to say, per se. I'm going out here, and I'm sure everybody can hear me. Everybody sees what I have in my hand. This told the story. A real story. As I said at the meeting on October 11th when I was here, I said, everybody should have their P's and Q's in the right spot and dot their I's and cross their T's at the right time. If they don't, they're not in line. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
That's all we have.
Is there anyone else that wanted to address council that hasn't had an opportunity to address council tonight? Ma'am, if you'd come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Treppel from the Lakeside Subdivision across the street here. I just want to say that back in the 90s when I was working on not campaign issues, but election issues, I was told the night of the campaign you go and you take all your signs down. And I've been delighted to see that tradition continue and have all those signs down from all the candidates within a day or two of the election. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to address council that hasn't had an opportunity tonight? Councilmember-elect Barbara Berry Spaeth.
I'm Barbara Spaeth, 5343 Chapel Lane. I just want to say something on a different note. The Veterans Day service was mentioned, and I don't know if you all have noticed the military banners that are up around town, but I just absolutely love those. And actually, I enjoy driving around trying to find my mom and dad's because they switch them around each time. So I just hope that you all can try to come to the Veterans Day ceremony. It's not well attended most years, and I think it's so important that we honor all those who have served our country. And if you have a member of your family that's ever been in the military, I encourage you to get one of the banners because it's really nice to see them up on the banner. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for bringing that. And if there's no one else, we'll move on to item 8 in our agenda. That's a good question. City manager? I don't know.
Call my office. We'll direct you.
So do we just open the public hearing? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to item 8 and 9 on our agenda, which is ordinance 2021-101. Do we have a motion to read by title only?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Approval of a revised concept planned unit development plan for the villages of Mason located north and west of Beach Boulevard, Villages of Mason.
And so we need to open the public hearing, and we will do that at 8:46 p.m.
7:46.
7:46. Yeah, it says 8:46 on our clock. I thought we'd been here a long time. It's 7:46 p.m. and we have Jordy Bacon with the engineering department. And go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So what you're looking at on your screens in front of you is the proposed concept plan for the Villages of Mason. As the law director said, it's at the end of Beach Boulevard, just next to the Mason Grand subdivision. So this is a proposed concept plan, but I'm going to take you back a little bit. This is not the first time this has come in front of City Council. So what you're looking at now is a concept plan that was recommended for approval in March of 2017 from Planning Commission. And City Council approved it in October of 2017. So this is 17 buildings with 224 apartment multifamily units. The buildings range between 2 and 3 stories in height, and as you can see, they're sort of spread out throughout the entire property. This project was not developed, and the applicant came back in 2018, and a concept plan was approved in September of 2018, and this is the plan in front of you now. They reduced the number of buildings to 7, and they were 3.5 stories in height. They also moved the buildings really to the southwest corner of the property. There's a floodplain running through the middle of the property right here, and that posed some development difficulties. So instead of spreading them out, they made it more condensed. So this is the concept plan that is currently on the books right now. There is a new applicant, and so they have brought this project forward. It is still 224 multifamily units, same as the previous 2 projects, but it's now spread out over 21 buildings that are 2 stories in height. So a little bit shorter, but more buildings. So the applicant has brought this to Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommended approval with staff conditions, and it's before you tonight. The one thing that I will bring to your attention, and one of staff's conditions, was to extend the driveway, or to extend Beach Boulevard. So if we look back at the 2018 plan, you'll see that Beach Boulevard extends to this cul-de-sac here, sort of in the middle of the development. Extension was originally agreed on between staff and the original applicant as sort of a compromise. It doesn't go across the entire property, it goes halfway up. It allows for a secondary fire access, and the thought was the rest of Beach Boulevard would be extended as either the north or eastern property was developed. The applicant has reduced Beach Boulevard, so they're only proposing to extend it to right here. As you'll see, the way the property is platted, it's platted for that previous cul-de-sac, so the cul-de-sac they're showing actually partially isn't on their property. So staff's recommendation was that we want to approve this, but we do want to see Beach Boulevard extended to where it is currently approved on the 2018 plan. And I'm available for any questions.
So anyone on council has any questions for Ms. Bacon? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. And is there anyone here to speak in favor of or against, or come on forward and give us your name and address?
Hi, Council. I am the property owner of 4870 Coxsmith Road, which is the property to the north of 5-acre residential property. I am also the trustee of a 2.5-acre property to the north that abuts the single-family land that's part of the PUD. I have multiple.
Can we get your name?
Yeah, Alex Terralds.
And your address?
Yep, 4870 Coxsmith Road.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So I have a few concerns related to the proposed development, mainly items that could potentially aggrieve the use, enjoyment, and value of my property. I'm worried about the development's impact on the creek that runs through the property. So I request that the city and the developer ensure that we don't suffer any increased erosion, any changes in the water levels, or any changes to the water quality of that creek. Also, my neighbor who is here as well, who I'm sure will talk some, irrigates his property with that creek, and I have plans to do so as well, so water quality is a big concern. In addition to that, I request that the city and developer consider how they can lessen the impact of the concentration of the buildings in the northeast part of the development. The zoning ordinance states in Chapter 1161, 2, under permitted building and uses, any use permitted in this zoning ordinance may be permitted in the planned unit development district, provided that it is consistent with the overall purpose of the PUD district and is compatible with the adjacent uses. my extremely low density property is not consistent with the concentration of 12-unit multifamily buildings right at my property line. So I would like the developer to rethink this plan in a way that would lessen the impact of the buildings right at our property. You know, the other concern that I have is the developer doesn't even own the single-family spot right up here. So how are they able to include that in any density calculation or open space calculation when they are not the owners of the property? Those are my concerns. I welcome an apartment development there. I don't think it's the best use, but I would like to see it be more compatible in the area where it abuts my property. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? See none. Anyone else want to speak in favor of or against the adoption of this plan? Sir, come on forward and give us your name and address.
Good evening, Council. My name is Francesco Pancheri. I live in 4848 Cocksmith Road. I'm the neighbor of Alex. So I share a lot of the same concerns that Alex just voiced. And one of the major concerns I have is also about the creek that runs by in the woods over there. So when it rains, we see that creek raising from a couple of inches of water to literally like 6 feet of water. And every time that happens, every time we get a storm, you get erosion that occurs. And a lot of those trees are now becoming, literally the roots are coming exposed and they're falling over. And that's a product of the fact that the more you build, the less surface area you enable the soil to soak water. So you pave, the more you pave, the more the less surface area there is available for water to absorb, the terrain to absorb water. So when that happens, you get these huge fluctuations in the water level in the creek. Besides, as Alex pointed out, yeah, obviously the water quality is important. I kind of use that water for irrigation purposes. So I want to make sure that, you know, that's wouldn't be affected. As for the other concerns that Alex expressed about the density, you know, I share some, you know, same concerns as he does, so I don't mean to repeat the same items. But I'll be interested in also understanding how the development is planning to the exposure of the building relative to the property that are abutting with the development. So the two properties in questions here are you can see the mouse right here. This is Alex's, that's my property right here. And so we'll be interested in knowing what are they doing on this side to, from an exposure standpoint, relative to the neighbors that are in the area. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions, council? No. Is there anybody else that wants to speak in regard to this public hearing on this ordinance? Yes. Either one of probably when now's the time, probably we're in the, yeah. If you could give us your name and address.
Brian Scheck with Bear Becker, 1404 Race Street, Suite 204, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202. And as Jake, who will be speaking after me, mentioned, I represent the applicant in terms of the design engineering, and I just wanted to address the water quality portion of the previous gentleman's concerns. We will be working with staff. You know, we have to go through a rigorous approval process through not only the city but also the state with the OEPA to make sure that The pre-developed conditions, the post-developed conditions do not exceed anything in the pre-developed state. So we can continue to work with you if you want to see how that progresses, but just wanted to let them know that that water quality will be addressed through detention basins and meeting all the city and state requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And, sir, if you'd give us your name and address?
Sure. My name is Jake Dietrich with Millhouse, the applicant office at 243 North 5th Street, Columbus, Ohio. To the questions about how we have chosen to develop the plan generally as it relates to joining property owners, the key thing that we've really been focused on is limiting the scale from what was previously several taller buildings to buildings that are more of a residential structure height. So at 2 stories, we feel like that scale is more appropriate. And then given, I think there are many concerns around just crossing the creek, access through the creek, keeping everything on the east side of the creek allows us to limit the impact to that watershed. So all in all, we've done we thought was a great job of mitigating the impact to those 2 several aspects. I'm here to answer any other questions that council may have.
Any questions from council? Thank you, sir. And is there anybody else that wants to speak in favor of or against this ordinance? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 7:58. And would entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance. If there isn't such a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll open this up for council discussion in terms of the adoption of ordinance 2021-101. Is there anyone from council wishes to say anything? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is item number 10 and 11, which is ordinance 2021-102. Again, a public hearing and a second reading of this ordinance. We need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Jeff?
An ordinance to repeal, amend, and add various sections and chapters of the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and to amend the zoning map regarding downtown Mason zoning.
Very good. Kurt, you want to start us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let me first open the public hearing on this matter, and it's we'll say it's 8 o'clock, and I'll open the public hearing. And Kurt, if you could go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Back in 2018, the electors approved a charter amendment related to residential density, and that provided a catalyst for this update that is before you tonight. Real quickly, I wanted to go through the difference between a comp plan and zoning code. So the comp plan is goals, our aspirations that we have for the future land use of the city, whereas this is zoning code. So that's the law, it's the more technical aspects of the code, like the setbacks, the lot size, permitted uses, things like that. So this update is an effort to modernize the code. It is a major update. It's probably one of the most major updates we've had since 1998. It does create 3 new districts and eliminates a district. But our hope is that it removes barriers for property owners, especially in the downtown, and so that there's less government intervention, provides long-term flexibility for those property owners. And last thing I want to mention is this is a culmination of a couple of years worth of a lot of hard work behind the scenes by Greg Dale, Liz Fields, their team, as well as Brian Laser and Jordy Bacon in our office. So with that, Jordy has a presentation to describe the proposed update in more detail.
Yeah, so as Kurt mentioned, there's a couple big changes, so I'll just walk you through sort of at a high level what's being proposed. So the city hired McBride Dale Clarion, Liz and Greg are here today to answer any questions, to really update the city's downtown zoning regulations and simplify and streamline our review process. So the process that the city and McBride Dale has followed is we reviewed and analyzed the existing zoning regulations. A steering committee of downtown property owners and business owners was created, and they worked to review and discuss products with the steering committee. McBride Dale went back and drafted the proposed regulations based on feedback from staff, the steering committee, and our existing zoning code. Then they've reviewed the proposed regulations with the public, and they came before Planning Commission, and we're now here tonight. So the map in front of you is downtown as it stands right now. Each color is a different zoning district, and I know it's a little challenging to see on the screen, but the brown hatched primarily over Main and Reading is our downtown overlay district. This map is what is being proposed. So as you'll see, there's 3 new zoning districts, and we've gotten rid of the downtown overlay district. So I'll go through each district in a little bit of detail. The first one is the yellow, so that's the downtown Mason neighborhood district. The neighborhood district is small lot, single-family residences, and it's really quite similar to what's already there. So it's primarily properties that are zoned R4, single-family residential. But what we've changed here is some of the dimensional standards. So setbacks, lot width, lot area, really technical things. So part of the reason that we did that is there's a lot of properties in downtown Mason that don't reflect the current zoning code. So their lot sizes or their setbacks are much smaller than what's in the zoning code. So anytime they want to make a change to their property because it's non-conforming, they have to come in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So the goal with this district was to change some of those setbacks, lot sizes, lot widths, and make their opportunities for developing their home the same as if they lived anywhere else in Mason. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the setbacks and dimensional standards for the R4 single-family residential. Some of the ones I'll draw your attention to here is the minimum lot area is a little over 12,000 square feet, and your front yard setback is 40 feet. What we are proposing is reducing that lot area to 2,000 square feet, so that encompasses a lot of the smaller lots in downtown, and reducing most of the setbacks, but the front yard now would only be 10 feet. So again, like I said, that's going to help some of those property owners in the Meadows and other small single-family homes in downtown. The next district that I'm going to talk about is our orange district, so that's downtown Mason neighborhood mix. This is sort of proposed to be a transition district from that low-density single-family in the yellow to our mixed-use, more commercial district that I'll talk about in a moment. And so the thought about this is that it combines a number of different types of residential, single-family, triplexes, duplexes, townhomes, as well as multifamily, but also allows more flexibility for live, work, offices, personal services, things like that. So this can be a little bit confusing, but currently those orange areas are zoned primarily either R4 single-family residential or B1 central business district. So those 2 tables on the left are showing the current setbacks. On the right, we're showing the downtown Mason neighborhood mix and what would be permitted and those changed dimensional standards. So one of the things that you'll see is really different here is that we're allowing different types of dwellings, so 2-family, townhomes, multifamily. And one of the concerns that we heard about from the public throughout this input process was if I have a single-family home and neighborhood mix and someone wants to put multifamily across the street from me, how's that going to impact the character of my street and my development? So we tried to build some flexibility into the neighborhood mix. So what you'll see is the minimum lot areas, the minimum lot widths, the setbacks really change based on the development. So a minimum lot area for a single-family home in neighborhood mix is going to be the same as neighborhood. It's going to be 2,000 square feet. You're going to have that 10-foot front setback. But if you want to build a multifamily, you're going to need 2 acres. So that's going to stop anyone from building a really dense multifamily on a smaller lot. So we're trying to keep that transition from your low-density residential up to your mixed use. The other thing I'll say is we're trying to build flexibility in this district into live work. So you'll see a lot of that. The most common example is if you have a beauty salon, maybe in the front of your home and you live in the back, or a lot of homes are being converted into administrative offices for financial advisors and things like that. With COVID and the changing demographics, trying to bring our zoning code up to date with what's really going on in the world. And the last district is the blue here, primarily along Main Street and Reading Road, and that's our downtown Mason mixed use. So we see this as really being the commercial core of downtown. So we're focusing on office, retail, commercial, services, mixed use, and residential, but not on the first floor. That would be on the second floor of a mixed use building. It is still allowing single family homes. We don't want anyone to not, we want every use that's there right now to continue as is if they want to continue. So what's changed here are dimensional standards and really removing some of the barriers to development for businesses that are there right now. And the last thing I want to talk about is the proposed residential density overlay. So as Kurt mentioned, in 2018, the city residents voted to amend the charter to allow for higher density in Mason. What we are proposing is a residential density over everything shaded in red right now. Right now, this maximum density that the city would allow is 8 units per acre. We're saying that a developer can come in if they would like to develop higher than 8 units per acre, somewhere in this red zone. They come to Planning Commission and they justify that. So there's no set number within the residential density. They need to show that their project makes sense on the size with what's around it, parking, traffic. They have to show impact studies, everything like that. And then Planning Commission and City Council make a decision on whether that development works. So this proposed residential density overlay boundary, right now we're only showing it in downtown, but potentially that could become other places in Mason. So if a property owner somewhere else in Mason wanted a higher density development, they could come and ask for this overlay district to be placed on their property. So the last thing I'm just going to touch on really quickly is some of the feedback we heard from downtown property owners is they wanted us to list out some of the things that they mentioned that they had issues with our current zoning code or things they wanted to see changed and how we tried to address them in the new zoning code. So the first one, and I know it's a hot topic item, is parking. So current and future parking capacity in downtown. So what we've tried to do in this proposed zoning district is remove those use-specific parking regulations that are in downtown right now and replace them with an individualized parking plan. So instead of having a set number saying you need X number of spots for your restaurant or X number of spots for your shop, we're saying provide a parking plan, justify how many spaces you need, look at what's around you, the uses around you, what's available publicly, and the city will work with you to come to a number that makes sense for your development. And then I know the downtown master plan process is being talked about, and through that process, we can evaluate public parking. The next one is preserve downtown's small, eclectic hometown feel. And this was something that came up in our public input meetings we had this summer. So we added in a section on district character to make sure that any new development complements the existing character in downtown Mason. Residents wanted to see varied residential housing options, which is why we've included so many different varieties in that neighborhood mixed and the mixed-use districts. Residents wanted to see support for small-scale mixed-use projects. So we've done that in a number of ways. We've added that character language like I spoke about. We've capped building height at 35 feet in the mixed-use district, so we're not getting anything that's towering over our existing businesses. And like I said, we've gotten rid of some of those specific numbers for parking and things like that, and you need to bring in a plan and justify your parking, your landscaping, your traffic, your stormwater, your pedestrian impacts, so on and so forth. And something that Kurt sort of touched on is removing barriers for people who want to develop in downtown. The way our zoning code works right now, especially for those single-family home property owners, is that they're having to come to ZBA. There's a lot of barriers to them developing their property in the way that they would like. So we're trying to remove that barrier from them and make it easier for them to develop their properties. The other thing that our current guide has is our downtown. The downtown overlay district has historic preservation guidelines and very specific guidelines for how you can update the facade of your building based on whether it's a contributing building. Under this proposal, we would completely remove those guidelines. We've baked a lot of them into the zoning district, so the height and the setbacks and the district character, but we've removed some of those challenges so it's easier to develop your property. A great example is a business downtown who wanted to put an awning over their patio. Under the current zoning code, they had to come through Planning Commission. That's a really minor change and should be something they should just be able to do. So under this proposed zoning code, they wouldn't have to do that. Something we heard during the public input is that Church Street is becoming busier, so that's a potential opportunity for expansion. So when we were reviewing it, we included that in the mixed-use district to allow that opportunity for expansion in the future. And the last one is that downtown should be a gathering place for arts, retail, and entertainment uses. So we've expanded those permitted uses in our mixed-use district. We're now allowing breweries, bars, hospitalities, live, work in the neighborhood mix, like I talked about, and just promoting more outdoor dining activities on the street and making downtown Mason really feel like downtown. So that's it for what we're proposing, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The one thing I do want to note is that working with McBride Dale, we've just made a couple of tweaks to some of the images that are in the proposed downtown zoning code, really minor, but just things we noticed that we think make the images better reflect the text in the code. So if you decide tonight to approve the updated zoning code, we'd like you to approve it with these images on your screen.
Very good. Is there any questions from council for Ms. Bacon? Councilmember Chance?
Sure. Jordy, thank you so much for that. And I know 2 representatives from McBride Dale are here tonight. I want to thank you for your patience. I know it's been somewhat of a roller coaster ride in regards to starting this thing, I believe in 18 with issue 4 passing. And, but talking through this with Mr. Hanson and understanding what you guys were commissioned with in regards to flexibility. And I know we have some business owners. We have Sherry with the chamber here. And looking at what we want to do with downtown, I think this is a great model. I think it's a great playbook for us to look at, but it also allows us the flexibility that we need to look at the downtown. And I just wanted to extend, you know, kind of the olive branch saying thank you for your patience in getting this thing done. And, you know, looking through this and understanding it, again, thank you for the presentation. I think it's just going to bode well for our ability to look at downtown as a comprehensive plan and being able to look at that stretch from, you know, the Mason Mile, what we've been calling it. And I think, like I said, giving these guidelines, guidelines with flexibility and, you know, taking back some of the setbacks, and I know some of the awning issues and stuff like that. I just think anytime we can kind of get the government out of the way and allow the private sector to do the work, I think that's where we're going to see the best results. So again, thanks for all your hard work and sticking through this process. So look forward to working with you guys more too. I think there's some good things on the horizon that we can use your services.
Any other members of council? Councilmember Nelson?
Yes. Again, I'd like to say thank you as well. This is really exciting for our downtown. We really want to, I think with the new council coming in, that's one of our main goals is to really begin developing our downtown. But one of the concerns that I have is if we are going to, currently as it stands, it's 8 units per acre. And now there's not going to be any set amount, which is just a little concerning to me because we're kind of seeing that right now with this Cohen deal. We're sticking a lot of apartments in such a small area. So that's really concerning to me. And then when you say it's going from planning commission, it has to be approved by planning commission, then city council. This was another issue that I had when you have 2 city council members that are also on the planning commission. So you're kind of getting a double vote there. I'm concerned about that just because that's exactly what we're seeing right now with the Cohen deal. And I'd hate for something like that to get through on a different deal. I know we're kind of late in the game to come, you know, to say this, but is there anything we can do about that?
By charter, by charter, planning commission consists of the mayor and one other council member. I guess a charter amendment, you could change that mix. I don't have any idea short of that.
But do you think it's a good idea, though, that we're leaving that so open, saying there's really no set units per acre here? They just have to prove that it's going to work. I just keep referring back to the Cohen deal. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid, but it was able to get pushed through. And I'm just, thinking into the future, what's going to happen when there's not a council around that doesn't have the, same views of, no, that's not a good idea.
Turn it off and set it on. Jordy may be able to speak to this more. The intent of the density overlay was to, and again, was to come up with a methodology, not just in downtown, but something that would allow us to handle that charter amendment and how you kind of change how you speak of density. And the notion here was that the project should speak for itself. So to get to those type of higher densities, you'd have a much higher burden in how you would address things like parking, like setbacks. It does leave some discretion there. I think the Plan Commission, council, staff reviews, you would have to have a pretty high threshold in order to get to those higher densities. And maybe Greg Dale could speak to that more as far as, or Liz, or Jordy, or whoever. Someone help me.
Liz, if you'd give us your name and address.
Sure. Liz Fields, 11932 Streamside Drive, Loveland, Ohio. I would say that in a lot of the codes that we're working on with different communities, we're removing density as a requirement, as it's not usually the best tool to regulate residential development. If you have a 8,000 square foot property and you want to put 2 units on it, that's going to be a very high density compared to if you have an 8-acre property and you want to put a development on it. It's much more kind of easier, we think it's a better tool to limit density by building height, by parking regulations, by design, by stormwater, by traffic impacts, the development things that really are indicative of the impact of a development. So, if you wanted to put a maximum density on it, you could, but it would be kind of relative to the size of the project you're talking about and the type of project you're talking about. So I think it would be kind of hard to come up with a number that makes sense in every circumstance.
Councilmember Nelson, anything further on that point?
No, but in the future, though, if we look at it and say, yes, this is causing a problem, it's pretty easy to change, correct? It's just a council vote with the changes. Or is...
Changes to the zoning code?
Correct.
Similar process, planning commission, and then a council vote.
Okay.
Yes, there's nothing here that is cast for forever.
Okay.
Any other council members have any questions, concerns? Is there anyone else here that wants to speak in favor of or against the adoption of this ordinance? Yes. If you'd give us your name and address.
Al Lertzman, 7343 Red Oak Court here in Mason. It's a real small point, but I noticed on the one slide where a couple of districts were being compressed into one. I think it was downtown mixed, I think was the new one. At one point, bed and breakfasts were allowed, and they are no longer allowed in the new one. I was just wondering what the rationale for that is, if there is a rationale.
Jordy, if you can address that.
Yeah, I'll just go back to them. So downtown mixed use, we do allow bed and breakfast under the mixed use. So I apologize if that wasn't clear in the slide.
So it is.
Yeah, I saw it as well. I questioned that too. It has 3 different columns.
So we don't allow it in the transition district. So the orange, the neighborhood mix, we wouldn't allow bed and breakfast in the orange, but we do allow them in the blue mixed use.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else here that wants to speak in regard to this ordinance, either for or against it? Mr. Stegbauer. Please give us your name and address.
Randy Stegbauer, 5358 Hidden Creek Circle. Very simply, you put those pictures of those last 4 buildings up, but didn't explain what they meant or what they were intended purpose of them for.
The graphics,
Yeah. Ms. Fields, if you address that, yes.
Yes, I can address that. Let me get to it. Sorry about this. Okay, so the graphics in front of you are very similar to the graphics that are in the proposed code. The changes that were made was this graphic here in the code currently it had another story on it, and I think it was kind of a misleading graphic, as the maximum height in the district is proposed to be 35 feet, and having it shown as potentially like a 5-story building. I think it was just a misleading graphic that we didn't catch in the first go-around. Same thing with this graphic down here. It additionally had extra height to the graphic, and so I recommended that we show it as a 3-story building, as I feel like it's a more realistic representation of what could be built here. This graphic here, it was just a mislabel. The requirement that this is speaking to is that if you have an awning over a residential area, that the maximum distance of that awning is 4 feet, and there's an 8-foot height clearance. We had that 8-foot height clearance labeled incorrectly, and so that was just a correction there. On this graphic, it was, again, we had an additional story about here, and it didn't look like it was appropriate, where if we were showing this as 35 feet, and this graphic represents that you can increase your building height if you step back the building height. And so at the street level, your maximum height is 35 feet, but as you move backwards, you can go up 1 foot in height for every foot back you move. So you can kind of move back a foot, you can go up a foot, back a foot, up a foot. And it was just made more sense to kind of remove that extra story there as well. And then lastly, on this graphic, this graphic was representing the requirement for landscaping for 50% of the frontage of the building where a building fronts a street. And I wanted to clarify, I don't think the original graphic was very clear of what that requirement was, and so I just wanted to clarify of showing that landscaping was only taking up 50% of the frontage. So that was just a clarification there.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else here that wants to speak in favor of or and please state your name and address. Thanks. Sure.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Gill, members of council and staff. My name's Sherry Taylor, and while Councilmember Chance did point me out as being from the chamber, that is my full-time gig. I'm actually here tonight. I'm a volunteer for the MAID CDC, and I'm here tonight on behalf also of our board of directors, which is comprised of John Kramer, Scott Jones, and Randy Cooven. And just so the public knows, MAID CDC is a nonprofit. It's a community-driven nonprofit organization that's established to coordinate the public and private efforts to grow the entire Mason-Deerfield region into a more dynamic, healthy, and resilient place. So we attended the October 5th Planning Commission meeting as the representative of 10 individuals who collectively own about 10% of the downtown properties that are under consideration for the rezoning this evening. Their collective request was for the Planning Commission to pause the process so that the community could be more engaged and a better outcome could be sought. As we pointed out that evening, that sort of public engagement was part of the city government's original intent when it hired the consultant in 2019. But somehow the zoning amendment arrived at Planning Commission without those property owners and many others providing their input. Unfortunately, the Planning Commission ignored our request that evening and allowed the zoning amendment to continue on. And just so everyone knows, one part of our mission is to aid in the pursuit of good governance. And while it can be sometimes painful for organizations to admit mistakes, neither does it serve the community well to ignore them when they happen. It seems in the haste to move the proposed zoning amendment forward on the night of October 5th, the Planning Commission made significant errors in the execution of their duty to review and evaluate it. The city's zoning ordinance, in particular the part that deals with how to process a zoning amendment, has some very precise and we believe obligatory steps that appear to have been ignored. And while it's possible the city council is unaware of these 12 steps, which are sort of the mandatory checklist Mason City Council put in place in 2004, we're here to make sure that council knows now. Also, in the interest of good governance, we want to encourage you to carefully consider how that potentially faulty approval process affects the implementation of the zoning code amendment that now sits before you. We have grave concern of the impact the improper adoption of a zoning amendment could have on the advancement of the objective that everyone is seeking, a healthy, vibrant, sustainable heart of our community. So we're here tonight on behalf of the entire community, asking the city council to slow down, take the time necessary to ensure the proper process, the one that is required by the city's zoning code, was followed by each of its statutorily required actors before making a decision that allows it to continue. In other words, we want to encourage you to take extra care tonight to ensure you, the city council, don't unintentionally violate your own zoning code. We're asking you to take a step back and look at everything from the original objective to the public engagement process to the manner in which the proposed amendment is being evaluated, and ensure that you are confident council is pursuing the best outcome in the most proper and, of course, lawful way. At the same time, in the event that you discover what we believe to be true and you are looking for an alternative approach, we want to reiterate our offer of assistance in pursuing a solution that emphasizes public involvement and proper process. We would be happy to involve the government in the planning process we've been pursuing on behalf of our property and business owners downtown for quite some time. And if you want more information on that, what that might look like, we'll be happy to meet with you at a further meeting to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone has any questions or? Councilmember Chance.
Sure, I do. Sherry, thank you for that explanation. First and foremost, I'd like to say I can't wait to start working with you and the team that you mentioned in regards to the board of directors with the CDC. I know each and every one of those individually. They're super smart. And I believe you guys have probably went through this thing with a fine-tooth comb. And so my point is, we have the work done, correct? It's done, it's there. And correct me, you probably need to go back up there. Answer of just a question. So correct me if I'm wrong. Are you asking tonight that we even pause adopting this so we can get the community engagement? I know we've reached out to 9 out of the 10 business owners downtown, spoke to them individually, and it's still their belief that, hey, it would be better for us to slow down opposed to adopt this tonight?
So I think so when we came to Planning Commission, it was the original ask was that the public engagement process was missing some really critical pieces to it. Now we're concerned that the way that the Planning Commission responded to our request, we're worried that some steps were missed in advancing that to council tonight. So now it's more about process advancement to council and making sure that we're, again, crossing our T's and dotting our I's as a city before we move forward. But I do think there's a huge opportunity. If you think back to the public engagement opportunity, there was no communication with the public for, 18 months from the original public engagement opportunity, and a pandemic hit. And so it just seems like, for lots of reasons, there's a big opportunity for us to just maybe do some additional steps now to re-engage, ensure proper process was followed, and move forward
And
together.
you have a plan for that, like how to execute on that?
For public engagement?
Okay, good. And so I guess my question is, if we table it, move the public hearing down the road, or what does that look like to be able to get that public engagement? Because I think that's been a pretty consistent theme of something that we probably should do, considering who we work for. What does that look like?
Yeah, I was going to ask our law director a similar question. Where are we at in this process? It's come to us from Planning Commission as approved. What is our role now at this point? Can we send it back to them, or we cannot do that, or what's the... Where are we?
No, at this point, Planning Commission has acted. They've made a recommendation to this body. You've had your first reading. You're in the middle of a public hearing right now. You do have we've done this before. You have the ability to continue a public hearing in progress. You don't have to make a decision tonight. So that's an option. You can close the public hearing and still table the ordinance. You have options. It kind of depends on what the goal is. But you're in the middle of a public hearing, and you can continue that in progress. We've done that before.
Is there any preference for council in terms of how you'd like to proceed tonight? Councilmember Nelson.
Yes, I agree with you. Even myself, I'm a little confused on some of this, and I don't feel comfortable really passing this tonight. I would like to have maybe a work session with the CDC there, and let's talk about it and go from there. So I am all for holding off on this vote tonight.
I think it'd be, oh, I'm sorry.
Councilmember
I would like to know some of the specifics that you feel that Planning Commission failed in their duties. That's what you're saying, correct? If I may, I mean,
Certainly. If I don't know if Ms. Taylor can address those, but
All right.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so in section 1137 of the zoning code, there's basically a 12-step process as outlined that the Planning Commission follows for adoption of the zoning code amendments. And so I was in the audience that night, and the concern is whether or not the proper process was followed. If those 12, I'm thinking of it from like a checklist perspective, were those items addressed? From the discussion that the Planning Commission had that evening, it seemed to get pretty, it just seemed to just go in a direction where it was not actually conversation about the process of adopting the zoning code and if the proper procedure was followed. It just seemed to go down the path of that we know this is done, we're advancing it. So from the seat that I sat in, it didn't seem as though the process had been followed that's outlined in the city's zoning code
Vice Mayor.
for members of the Planning Commission.
I guess I'm still looking for specifics.
It's 1137.03 of the zoning code.
Basically, you're saying is a violation of the code.
I think it's more of a process.
And what, I mean, I don't, you're giving me there's supposed to be a checklist, you didn't think it was followed, but apparently the Planning Commission thought it was followed?
I suppose so. That's the question, was the proper procedure followed for the actual zoning code amendment?
Vice Mayor Gill.
Vice Mayor,
Councilmember
if I could
Honorable.
jump in. So as a member of the Planning Commission, I want to point out that we unanimously, as a Planning Commission, all agreed that this process of zoning went before any design or master plan. I don't remember the exact vote. I think there was one member that did not vote to move this forward after he made that comment. So I'm not sure. The accusation is against the city staff not doing proper work.
No.
They didn't follow their own process or code. And I'm trying to figure out what steps exactly were missed. So maybe somebody from the city, I don't know if it's Eric or Kurt, or if we could get Jordy or Liz, somebody that could, Liz ain't with the city anymore, to maybe comment on if you think we missed a step at all, to kind of answer this accusation saying that somehow we misfollowed. I know that Ms. Taylor said that this started in 2019, but it did start in 2018. So we've got a 3-year process of reaching out to the community, having community involvement. I think, Ms. Taylor, you yourself were part of the steering committee.
Nope.
You were not part of the steering committee? I thought you told me at a downtown committee you were.
Nope, I was a liaison to the process, but I was never on the steering committee.
Okay, so we had 11 members on steering committee, and at the last meeting, only 2 showed up. So we had problems with it wasn't an issue with the city not reaching out to people. There were double emails sent out trying to get people included. There was just a lack of interest or commitment from the community to handle something like zoning.
Well, Vice Mayor,
So
can I speak
if I
up?
could get an answer first from the city. Did you think we mishandled any step? Did we misstep? The violation of a code, our own code, did we mess something up here that we need to go back and fix?
I did not attend the Planning Commission meeting, so I'm not sure I can really speak to that. I'm not aware of any missteps. I don't know if Jordy or Brian at the Planning Commission.
Well,
That's Member Chance. Hang on a second. Jordy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I'm not personally aware of any missteps. I've been looking through Chapter 1137 when Liz Taylor speaking, and I believe what she's referring to, but please correct me if I'm wrong, is there's a list of things the Planning Commission should consider in their evaluation of a zoning code amendment. It's not limited to the following criteria, but it's just part of what they should consider. And there's a number of things here about the goals and policies, future land use, proposed zoning districts. As Ms. Taylor mentioned, it's 1137.3, but it's not a checklist. It's just a criteria evaluation to consider.
Thank you. Councilmember Chance, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think we can simplify this. I mean, I think if I'm hearing there's still community engagement, public engagement, business owner engagement, I think it makes perfect sense, given the time we are in right now, that we would table this, close the public hearing, table this, have a work session. I would love to be able to see diversity of thought with everybody in the room, with your group, with the CDC, with the business owners, with the steering committee, with the 10 business owners. Let's have that meeting, because I'd love to get everything out on the table, have that discussion, see what washes out, and start working from there. So are you guys amenable? I'm sure CDC, and I'm sure we can get the business owners that were mentioned. Jordy, I'm sure you'd like to show up.
That's what you pay me to do, so.
Yeah. So I would like to make a motion, and correct me if I'm wrong here, to table the ordinance until we're able to have.
I guess first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we want to close the public
Yes.
hearing and then entertain a motion in regard to tabling the ordinance? We can do that, but I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to speak in favor of or against the adoption of the ordinance. There are. Is there anyone? Sir, give us your name and address. Yeah.
Todd Hudson, and I own Wildflower at 207 East Main, Mason. Been a while since I've been here. I was hoping to keep it that way. So I'm on the steering committee for this, okay? And we met 3 or 4 times, somewhere thereabouts, back in 2018, 19, something to that effect. We had some really great progress that we were doing. These guys are excellent at their job. Zoning is probably the most boring thing in our entire charter, and I would make the assumption that there's maybe 4 people in this room that really know what we're talking about, and I'm not one of them. So this is just my analysis of the situation. We were making progress on some really good public input, and this was pre-COVID, so we had. I was playing a lot more golf at the time. Now I'm actually working all the time, sadly, but I should be at work right now. So when we had this long pause after we made this great progress, we had this long pause, which is totally understandable. I was unemployed, technically, so we get it. So anyway, we came back, and my situation was very different, that I didn't have the flexibility to go to these meetings anymore, particularly in the evening when I own a restaurant. So I think I missed the one meeting that we had 2 people show up at. I think I reached out to Dan Chambers, who's involved in this program, and this is maybe a ballpark, but I'm going to say June was maybe when I sent the email, and I said, like to meet and go over this. We finally went over it last Thursday, and that was June to November. So, now, that said, I don't want to throw a jab at anybody or any part of the process here, but the idea would be that this is publicly driven, this is a situation where I've complained about a lot of things in our zoning code for a long time. I reluctantly had to participate in rewriting that because I didn't want to be an armchair quarterback. So now, we kind of collectively, and I'm also one of the 10 business owners that wrote the letter to the city and asked them to slow it down for a minute. At the moment, when we met Thursday, I had pretty much 24 hours from the meeting until this moment where they would be voting on this. And everything they said has been true. This is all correct. We can adjust the zoning down the road. That's totally fine. That's not how I would do business, because I wouldn't publish an employee manual and then say, well, you know what, we'll just adjust it in a couple weeks and we'll change our training policies and we'll go back. That's a little bit more involved than probably what's necessary. If the solution might be 45 days or 60 days to try and reconvene with the business owners, particularly in an environment where, meetings at 8 o'clock on a Monday or a Tuesday doesn't fit into my schedule. So maybe we have to do something a little bit different. as a result. The code itself, I would say 90% of it is I'm okay with. But there's 10% where we've got some things that we need to address, and there's some holes in here that we need to fix. We've kind of agreed on that. I don't see any reason why we would push this through this evening when we kind of agreed that we have an issue. We have 10% that we need to wrap up. So I don't get the logic of why we would do it tonight, particularly when we've got some business owners, some engagement maybe that we could do, and with the hope of saying, hey, if it's just another couple weeks or however long, even if it just makes people feel good, to say, I'd like to have a meeting, I'd like to host a meeting at the restaurant, an informal meeting, maybe we could have them out, we could go over the code, we could break down some of the big changes to you. I think this does address the majority of it. I'm very happy with the work that's been done, but I'm not sure that the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted. So once we wrap that up, I would be cool with it, but I think we need to kind of re-engage everybody back again, and then maybe we can finalize the process. And I think it's fair to say that Sherry and myself and the 10 other business owners, we're all on the same page, so maybe you could count me as 10 speakers or nine other speakers. So I yield myself another 5 minutes times 9, and then we'll just pretend that I said the same thing 47 times in a row. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, can we?
Councilmember Antelope.
I'm pretty sure that I got a call today from the city manager saying that they had reached out to 9 of the 10 business owners and did have a conversation with even Mr. Hudson, but that they all, once they heard the details, took away the pause and that they were behind it. Did I misunderstand that conversation today? Do you know where the 10 business owners that you spoke to in the last, since Planning Commission, did they change their position or not? I might have misunderstood.
I didn't speak to all 10. My understanding is we reached out to all 10 that had expressed concerns, and that there was a positive response. I don't know how to respond to the pause or taking back the pause. I think all of the 10, or all that were spoken to, felt there were positive things for their property in the ordinance. That doesn't mean, I don't think staff or the city necessarily, someone didn't indicate a rush to get this done. The only rush I would feel would be on behalf of downtown businesses that may want to take advantage of the flexibility. There's no, from a staff or from a process point, I don't think there's any rush or any pause. It's worked its way through the process. It's now at council. If council is ready to enact it, there will be opportunities to revisit it, to tweak it, to change it. There will also be, if council and or the businesses or the property owners don't feel the urgency themselves, there's no pause or move forward. Either way, it's what, I don't think staff have any urgency in that.
Okay, so my understanding is that even if this passed right now tonight, each individual property owner could come forth with a plan, and it could be modified because it's such a flexible situation we have. We're not locked in too much. Is that correct? There's a lot of flexibility in this. I think even Councilmember Chance mentioned there is a lot of flexibility.
I think it expands their flexibility from what they may want to do to today. And maybe there's two levels here. If this were adopted tonight or another night, and if there are elements found that don't work well or don't suit well, you do have the opportunity, like all ordinances, to adjust that or to tweak it. It does need to go through Planning Commission, Council. I'm sorry, I forgot. So you have flexibility there. The property owners have more flexibility than they do today in how they develop their property. At what point that the city decides we want to move or transition to this, they will have additional flexibility. Until then, they won't have that.
Okay, so we had a 3-year-long process. We followed all our protocols with this. We had all our community involvement. We had a steering committee that was made up, not of council, but of the public. And we had the possibility of Zoom, if you could miss a meeting, or if you were unemployed and still couldn't make a meeting, you were able to attend, which I think Mr. Hudson said he only missed one meeting. So it seems like to me we had community involvement, so I'm not understanding why there would be a situation where we would pause something that everybody agreed on, that this would be something that has an improvement to the downtown and keeps downtown development going, with something that every council member says they're for. I think we just missed, Councilmember Nelson even said the new council's all for downtown development. This is a key piece of it, and passing the zoning is the first step. And it was unanimously stated at the Planning Commission that this was approved, and then the vote was overwhelming to pass this. So I'm not sure what step was missed, or the accusations, or why there would be a situation, why this is an issue to pass. I don't get that.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah. Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, if we've been doing this for 3 years, our CDC is asking us to pause. 10 major business owners are asking us to pause. I'm really not sure what the issue is. Let's pause for like a month or two, get it sorted out, let everybody speak, and move forward.
Sir, well, we're in the middle of a public hearing, and is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor of or against the Mr. Lortzman, I see? And Mrs. Lortzman, you want to speak on this too?
I'm against passing this thing tonight. I'm not sure what Councilman Honolaw's rush is, but it seems to me that waiting a couple of weeks is not going to have a major negative impact on anybody. It will leave the vote on this to the new incoming council, as opposed to a very vocal, hurried, lame duck who always seems to be rushing. So that is why I'm against it being passed tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Lortzman, did you want to?
So I forgot to say this earlier. I'm Susie Lurtzman, 7343 Red Oak Court, Mason. I have a real simple little thing, I hope. That was explained with the upper right-hand corner that you could start at 35 feet at street and then up and back and up and back and up and back. That's on a corner. Only one side is stepped. The other side is straight up. Is that the way it's going to be? It's not how it was explained.
No, that's a misrepresentation of the graphic. There would be a building next to it. If we need to change that graphic to make it more clear, we're happy to do that.
That would help me, because it looks like it says 50 feet straight up and down on the side, and then in the front it's 35 feet and stepped.
It's not intended to that building is a corner lot. It's just a building. It would be a building in line with other buildings.
Would a corner building have to have the stepping on both sides?
Yes.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you very much. And I also would like to say, what's it going to hurt to give it another week or two? It's not like anyone's going anywhere real fast. Even if we only wait a couple of weeks, the folks who are outgoing members will still be here to put their mark on it. So why hurry? That's it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak in regard to the public hearing on this matter? Mr. Hudson, again, do you want to speak again? Okay. Something new?
Yeah, I did forget a key part.
Okay.
Todd Hudson, 207 East Main. Something else that I forgot, and thanks TJ for reminding me of that. So we have a master plan, right? But that's from early 2000s. So that's 11 years old. This is part of a process where, you know, if it was me, if I was flying the ship, I would say, let's do a master plan for our downtown in particular, and then say, let's write a zoning code that's going to match that. I'd rather not see the opposite, where we come through and we say, here are the laws, here is how it's written. Yes, we can change it down the road, but that's not the logical path of procedure. We should just get it right, which would be following the master plan, establishing the master plan via public input, and then saying, here's what the community wants, and here's what we're going to make our downtown look like to jive with that. In the conversations that I've had with these people involved in this planning, rewriting the zoning code, the master plan 99% of the time would come first before rewriting the zoning code. So we're a little backwards on that. So just to clarify that seems to make a little bit more sense to me to follow that, and it's not really the most logical path to take. And like, I appreciate what you said, Eric, we would be the ones that are benefactors or not of this. I understand that, and I completely agree 100%. I appreciate you saying that. And this is a good solution. There are just some loopholes that I could address with you for the next 25 minutes if you guys want me to, but my guess is that's probably not what you want me to do. So maybe we could handle it in some other manner than me standing at this podium at a city council meeting. We could do it some other time that would make more sense, where we could actually get more public input. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's nobody else that wants to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing at, is it 8:50? 8:52. All right. Is there a motion then to table this ordinance?
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember,
I'll make the motion to table this ordinance.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to table? Mr. Onlo?
I still have comments about the issue. It's not the table.
So the issue,
I'm not sure how they blend, so.
Well, there's a motion on the floor right now to table, so the discussion has to be pertinent to the question of tabling the ordinance.
yeah. So is there any discussion on the motion to table? Clerk would call the roll on the motion to table.
Vice Mayor, if I
Yes.
may.
Yeah, on the motion to table?
Yeah,
Yes.
correct, yeah.
Yes,
I
okay.
mean, is it appropriate now, I guess?
Yes.
So I just a couple of comments. I didn't want to do it during the public hearing, but wanted to wait until council comments to do so. And so this is on tabling and why we should table. I think we have, whether real or completely, or a perceived issue of communication with the public. We have the people that are going to, as mentioned by Mr. Hanson as well as Mr. Hudson, that are going to benefit the most from a more flexible zoning code are saying, hey, we weren't part of that process. Again, whether it's real or perceived, they don't feel like they were part of that process. We heard earlier tonight from somebody else that we weren't listening to business owners over the last 2 years, that we rushed a development, that we did other things that weren't representative of the community. We have an amazing opportunity here to step up, raise the bar, and acknowledge the hard work that has been done by the city staff, because we appreciate that, and not let it go to waste by putting together a zoning code that we're potentially going to have to adjust later. So we're 90% of the way there, it sounds like. So let's get the other 10% of the way done, and let's do it right the first time. And let's raise the bar a little bit. I think we need to raise the bar. It's not going to hurt anything to table it. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion to table? Clerk would call the roll.
Councilmember Sturkula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gill,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
So motion to table would be approved, and the motion will move on then to the next item on our agenda, or?
Would just like to ask, maybe for final discussion, you've already made the motion to table. That's a indefinite motion. Yes, you'll have to act to bring it back in front of council. It would be probably useful for, and maybe this is at the next meeting, useful for staff to have, some direction when or what, what would precipitate those next steps. That doesn't have to occur now, but you will need to address that before. It won't automatically come back, is what I'm saying. Someone will have to do something, and staff will be waiting for that direction.
Councilmember.
Yeah, real quick, I appreciate that, Eric. And, as Councilmember Strickler brought up, I think this is an opportunity for us to sit down with these folks and have the discussions. And I'm looking forward to that. So Sherry be looking for a phone call, Todd be looking for a phone call, and I would love to sit down with you guys too and get, like I said, get everyone in the room to where this game of telephone stops kind of happening, to where, this should happen and then this should happen and this should happen. I want, you pointed out there's 4 people that probably understand this zoning, and you being 2 of them, Jordy, you 3, and maybe Eric. But let's sit down and get everybody in the room and have this discussion to where, there's a smart man that instead of I think, then we can go to I know and figure out what that looks like and how that works and what is that process, what is that procedure. Should we button up the zoning prior to really looking at a master plan? Is that something you guys engage with someone that will look at the master plan? Is that something you work with the CDC to say, hey, we did this way because of this? And I think collectively, we all can sit down and have an intelligent conversation and understand the equation, understand the roadmap, get us a playbook, and then let us execute on what we can, but then also let the private sector execute on what they do best and let us get out of the way. But again, I love the flexibility that this gives us, and I look forward to learning more about it. I mean, I've had a lot of high-level discussions, but again, getting everyone in the room and having that to where everyone up here, the new incoming council-elect, can listen, hear, and then we can figure out what we do to move forward. So that's my plan, and I hope you guys, and especially the new council-elect, will join me in that, because I think it's smart.
All right.
Vice Mayor, I just have a question real quick. So do we have to bring it off the table in order to have a work session on it?
No, council can set a work session for whatever topic you choose, but before you can take any legislative action on it, again, it will take some action to bring it off the table.
Okay.
And so that was, I think, to Eric's point, we'll need some guidance on that to know when
Sure.
you would like
Okay.
to do that.
Perfect, thank
All
you.
Vice Mayor? Sorry,
Mr.
just
Strickler, yes.
maybe, if I may, to provide that guidance, it may make a recommendation that it goes back to the downtown committee where it started. I don't.
It's on the table now. We'll leave it there. And
Well,
I think
they
we'll
were
move
asking,
on.
sorry, they were asking for some direction, so that was kind of my direction,
Yeah,
was to send it back to the downtown committee.
I don't think we can take further action on it unless we bring it off the table, and I don't think you want to move to bring it off the table. Okay, all right.
To your point, I guess what I would say, and I agree with you, at this point, it's been tabled, but downtown committee has the ability to set its agenda however it feels, and if downtown committee wants to take it up, they can.
Good point.
All right,
Good
thank
point.
you. Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on to item 12 on our agenda, which is ordinance 2021-112. Is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All in favor of the motion to read by title only? Yes. Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Amending ordinance 2021-111 regarding a purchase and sale agreement and a related economic participation agreement related to approximately 27 acres of the former Western Row Golf Course and declaring an emergency.
And Mr. Hanson?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. This is actually a relatively minor ordinance, some bit of housekeeping. What it does is it amends ordinance that the last ordinance that we passed our last meeting, which had to do with the development of the Western Row Golf Course, the city purchasing a portion of that for a future business park and working with the developer in what was identified as a catalyst partner. Since that time, Dorothy Lane Market has announced their location decision to locate to the city of Mason and to that development. It would now be appropriate to amend the ordinance that we adopted to insert the name Dorothy Lane Market in place of the catalyst partner outlined in those documents. It does not change any of the other commitments or any of the timeframes, but it will cement that relationship and allow us to move forward with the additional work on that. Action by City Council will make the necessary amendments into the document and is recommended.
We need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of this ordinance after its first reading.
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? And then we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Vice Mayor, if I can insert there just to clarify, we did add an emergency clause to this in order to allow us to move forward with the commitments and the developer to move to Planning Commission.
All right, so there's a motion to adopt. Is there a second on the motion to adopt?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion on the adoption of the ordinance? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Item number 13 on our agenda is ordinance 2021-113. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with John P. Tumlin and Sons Limited in an amount not to exceed $82,100 for the Phase 3 of the building renovation in Building Number 4 at the Safety and Service Center Annex.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to spend a couple of minutes on this. This is an opportunity that the city's been pursuing for a while. We had a decommissioned water reclamation plant that sits in a floodplain primarily, had little use. Staff were given a challenge some years ago now to determine how to use that property that didn't really have any market value. And one thing about water reclamation plants is you can't tell them from the road, but they have buildings that have very deep basements. And that's true of this building, and one of the ideas that's generated has proven very successful is reusing the area as a training facility, specifically for police and more specifically for fire. And incrementally, in different phases, we've been taking what's known as Building 4, which has that pit style of basement, and transition it to a training facility for fire. So you'll often see fire training facilities that are 3- or 4-story structures that go up. This gives us the same benefits of training, but it's not obvious because it goes down into the ground. Specifically with this phase would be adding some interior steps to comply with some building code, adding a catwalk as part of it, all in an effort to improve how firefighters specifically are able to use that for basement type fires, 3-story fires, things how they locate the hose through stairways. It provides a lot of tactical as well as maneuverability options for the firefighters. This phase would be what we anticipate to be the next to last phase and turning that into a full training facility. The $220,000 was included in this year's budget for site and building improvements. Some of those have already been accomplished with some paving and concrete work. What is proposed with this contract with John Tumlin and Sons for $74,600 would be those interior stairways and catwalks that I described to improve its use for firefighters. That quote includes a contingency amount for any expected costs given the circumstances of the building, and it will remain under budget for this year's amount. We are talking in next year's budget for that next phase to completely finish it out. So I like this story because it's I think a good story of how we creatively approach some of these problems. Take some facilities or some equipment that otherwise would be used up and maybe derelict and turn it into a really viable and cost-effective solution to enhance safety in the community. It is recommended for adoption.
Very good. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after its first reading.
So, second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
Second.
And any council discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Member Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn, Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
Yes. Item 14 on our agenda is ordinance 2021-114. Need a motion to read by title only?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
An ordinance accepting the low and best bid for the Sports Center Complex Drive Bridge Replacement Project from WG Stang LLC and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. This is a project we've had on our list for several years to replace. It's what we would call an unconventional structure. Part of the bridge on the upstream end is a simple span concrete deck, and the downstream end is 3 corrugated metal pipes that are shoved together with some concrete over top of them. It is in disrepair and need of replacement. We continue to use electronic bidding, and as we did on this project, and we've had really good luck. As you can see, we had 10 bidders on this project, with WG Stang being the lowest bid. Alternate one that's shown in there is for some paving of the drives going to the maintenance facility there for the golf center. We are recommending awarding the project with that alternate bid in there, so we can get that paving work done. Their pricing was very competitive for that work. WG Stang has done projects in the city in the past. They are ODOT pre-qualified contractor. We expect construction to start in the spring of next year and be completed by June. The contract documents have allowed for 21 days of a closure during construction, and during that time, the golf center can still be accessed through the Courseview Drive and Paul Flory Way. The budget included $325,000 for construction of this project, and we are recommending ordinance 2021-114 be awarded to WG Stang for just over $305,000. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of the ordinance after its first reading.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion?
Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Nelson?
I just have a question. There were a number of bridge grants that were being offered a while back. Did we look into those, and would this qualify for any of the grants?
Right. We did, and no, we don't believe it would. This is a smaller structure, and it's actually not in dedicated right-of-way. It's on city property. There's an easement going back to that driveway. Most of those grants are for municipal bridge, are very large structures that this would not qualify.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further council discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn? Yes. Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gill?
Yes.
Member Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Item 15 on our agenda tonight is ordinance 2021-115. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
An ordinance accepting the proposal for design services for Western Row Road and Innovation Way Interchange Gateways and Landscaping Project from the Kleinger's Group in the amount not to exceed fee $140,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. The project is for improvement of the interchange, Western Row interchange, and the Innovation Way corridor. Part of our commitment when that interchange went in was to add some gateway signage and improve the landscaping in that area. We actually are going to be starting construction in the next couple days on the first phase of that project. However, that's all we have designed. What the contract is before you tonight is to design the rest of the improvements, which in total are about $2.5 million worth of improvements that we intend to do over several years through multiple budgets. And that helps us in two ways, both budget-wise and as far as staff maintaining the improvements. We want to make sure that what we put in looks good and is what our residents expect. This detailed design is for biddable documents for all those improvements, and then we can take those documents, break them up into smaller contracts, and do the project in increments. With that, the Kleinger's Group is the designer on the project, and they have a couple subcontractors for some of the foundations for the signage and as well as the electric. But they came up with some of the preliminary designs and are very familiar with our expectations for the project. There is no irrigation in the project. A lot of this is some hardscape improvements and low type of plantings that require less water, so that it'll really improve the look out there, but not have the daily maintenance that's generally required for irrigated landscaping. So with that, ordinance 2021-115 would allow us to do this comprehensive design and then build the improvements phase over several years. So ordinance 2021-115 is recommended for adoption.
So I would need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of the ordinance after its first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Need a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Councilmember Bradburn?
Yeah, Kurt, what I'm reading here on the bottom is we're talking $2.5 million for landscaping.
It's also the gateway signage, so this will be some of the signs that you've seen at Pine Hill Park, recently installed at Quinn Park, Hosey Woods Park, but on a much larger scale. What we have is some designs that are scalable for our business parks, so they'll be coming off of the interchange at Innovation Way. Right now, there's no signage to let you know that you're now in the city of Mason, so there'll be some signage there for the Innovation Way corridor. And then also coming off the ramp, the northbound ramp at Western Row, the corner at the northeast corner there, the Kings Island corner, something there that also signifies Mason. So there's big gateway signs that take foundation design. There's a lighting element to them and hardscape as well as the landscape in itself. So it's not just trees. But
Any further council discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Present.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gill?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Item 16 on our agenda tonight is ordinance 2021-116. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Establishing the salary administration plan, providing for consideration of increases in compensation on an annual basis, and granting a cost of living increase.
Jennifer Heft.
Yes, Vice Mayor, members of council, ordinance 2021-16 through 2021-18 all cover compensation for employees as well as compensation to Wood and Lamping for legal services. This is really typical legislation you would see at this time of year. It's the first step in our budget process whereby the Employee Relations Committee meets. They discuss both COLA and merit increases for our employees. Our Employee Relations Committee did meet. They are recommending a 3% COLA increase. That COLA increase does three things for us. One, it helps keep our salaries in line with the competitive market. It affects our hiring ranges, so when we go to hire a new employee into the city, all the hiring ranges will receive a COLA increase. And it also sets primarily our fees and our charges for services that are enacted throughout the city. With approval of these amounts, it will also be implemented as part of the city's annual appropriation ordinance that you will see in the upcoming weeks. As I indicated, the Employee Relations Committee is recommending a 3% increase. The last few years, the city has been experiencing some difficulties hiring positions, and so we took a look at our hiring ranges and discovered that they're really not competitive with the market that's out there. So this legislation will eliminate the lower part of the range and add a step at the top part of the range and hopefully bring all of those hiring ranges. This does not affect current employees' salaries. It's just our hiring ranges for any new hires that come into the city. This legislation also provides flexibility for the city manager to negotiate other benefits such as sick and vacation time for senior level management positions. The second component of an employee's compensation is a merit increase. And this process for a merit increase was established a number of years ago to provide equity both from top level management and employees at lower wage schedules. The first step in the process is that supervisors and department heads go through an annual evaluation of their employees based on all the employees across the organization, and this applies to non-union employees that are in good standing with the city. They receive a compensation amount based on that evaluation. Department heads also have the flexibility to request more for those employees that may be performing at a really high commendable level and want to put in for some additional compensation for those employees. Once we go through that process, it comes to the Human Resources Director as well as City Management. We review those. Sometimes there's various if evaluations can be very subjective sometime, and some department heads, there might be fluctuations in that. So we take a look across the organization. We make sure that employees' salaries are in line throughout the organization, as well as, again, fairness for all the departments of the city. With that, there might be some additional justification or additional amounts provided by the city manager's office. That merit increase, merit portion also involves a separate merit amount, and the Employee Relations Committee recommended $60,000 again this year for that. That is used to help us provide some additional compensation for employees that really stood out and really lived up to the city's four missions. We call them our 4 goals or objectives, which is collaboration, coordination, communication, cost saving, as well as compassion. And our employees will get, lots of times we get our residents will call in and make comments about our employees, and we use this additional merit bonus to help acknowledge those efforts of our employees. Finally, Ordinance 2021-18 does an adjustment to wooden lampings compensation for the year. We started this a number of years ago. Wooden lamp, in discussions with them, they would like their, much like our user fees and other charges for services throughout the city, their compensation now is reflective of the COLA increase as well. And then finally, nope, I covered it already, wooden lamping. So ordinance 2021-116 through 2021-118 has been reviewed by Employee Relation and is recommended for adoption, but if any committee members would like to speak on behalf, feel free to do so.
So in terms of ordinance 2021-116, I'd need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for its adoption at the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any council discussion on the motion?
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Nelson?
I just want to say, when the Employee Relations Committee met regarding this, we look at all the other municipalities in the area, we analyze what they have done, and we kind of follow that as well. So we're never, way above or way below anyone else. We're kind of right in there with everyone. We just, we have such a great staff here in Mason, and we want to make sure that they're recognized.
Very good. Any other council discussion? Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Item 17 on our agenda is ordinance 2021-117. Need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
Repealing ordinance 2020-104 of the City of Mason, Ohio, and establishing hiring compensation ranges for City of Mason employment positions.
And I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Item 18 on our agenda is ordinance 2021-118. Need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
Modifying the contract for legal services with Wood and Lamping LLP to provide for updated compensation.
And I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? And a motion to adopt.
So moved.
And any council discussion on this motion, or this ordinance? Clerk, call the roll.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is item number 19, ordinance 2021-119. Need a motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Amending ordinance 2020-115, establishing the positions and rates of compensation for employees of the Mason Municipal Court.
Ms. Heft.
Yes, Vice Mayor, much similar to the legislation that council just passed for non-union employees of the city. Municipal court is a slightly different entity. The court itself establishes pay rates for individuals within the court. Council does need to adopt legislation that allows our payroll department to process those payments for court. So that's why that legislation is before you today. They have moved to the same method that the city has gone to, which is approving legislation at the first of the year, or requesting legislation at the first of the year for their compensation for their employees. Again, this year, the court is asking for a 4% increase to their employees' wages. The ordinance does set a maximum total amount to be paid out of the general fund as well as court special funds. As you recall, the court does have special funds set up that are collected as part of the fees of the Mason Municipal Court, and some of those fees do go to pay some of the salaries of court employees. With that, ordinance 2021-119 is recommended for adoption.
Need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? And I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Any council discussion? And the clerk would call the roll.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes. And item 20 on our agenda, ordinance 2021-120. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved?
All in favor?
Yes.
Mr. Forbes.
Directing the Warren County Board of Elections to submit the referendum of ordinance 2021-92 to the electors of the city of Mason, Ohio at the May 3rd, 2022 primary election.
And Mr. Hanson.
Yes, as council is aware, just over a week ago, the County Board of Elections certified that there were a sufficient number of valid signatures on petitions to move forward with referendum of ordinance 2021-92. City Law Director Jeff Forbes has provided some direction on next steps for council to make sure that election moves forward as required.
Thank you, Eric. As you saw in the memo, this is really, referendum is controlled by sort of a combination of state law and our city charter. The charter provision is what we need to talk about now, because the charter says once a sufficient number of signatures has been certified, which it has, then council actually has an option to take. The default would be that the referendum would go on the ballot at the next general election or primary election that's at least 90 days away. That would be the May of 2022 primary. The charter does give council the authority to establish a separate special election date. You don't have to do it on the date of the primary. You can set a special election date. We've reached out, my understanding is, to the Board of Elections. If you set a special election date, then the city bears the entire cost of conducting that election. The estimate that we've received is about $43,000 it would cost to conduct a special election. The legislation was prepared, you will see, with the May 3rd primary date, because that's sort of the default date in the charter. If you want to leave it at the primary, you can act on it as proposed. If you want to set a special election date, you'd have to make a motion to amend the ordinance first and select whatever date council chooses. I would point out, sorry, one other thing. If you want to do a special election date, it would have to be at least 90 days away from now because the Board of Elections does have certain election requirements that they have to follow. And I think it would be early February at the earliest you could do that.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Then I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion, Mr. Honorlaw?
Yes, Vice Mayor, I would just say that I think we would all like to see this get settled, but at the cost of $43,000. I don't think anybody's willing to do that. I think we wait till May 3rd. That would be my opinion.
Any other council discussion?
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Nelson?
Couple questions for our law director.
Yes.
First question is, if we agree tonight to keep it at the May 20th election, but May 3rd election, are we able to change that at any time as long as we give the Board of Elections 90-day notice?
I think it can be done. I think it's unusual that it would be done. What I don't know is when we give this to the Board of Elections, what steps they would take and how quickly they would start those steps. I don't know if they would do anything that could not be undone.
Okay.
But it's council's discretion, certainly, to set the date of the election.
One more question. So if we decide after today's vote, if we decide later that we want to undo the ordinance altogether with the Cohen deal, are we allowed to do that even though it's been sent to the Board of Elections already?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, the referendum statute says at any time after the submission of the petitions, you can repeal the ordinance. And if you repeal it, the statute specifically says then the Board of Elections shall not submit it to the ballot.
Okay.
It's essentially, it makes it moot.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Nelson stole my thunder. So.
Okay, all right. All right. Any other council discussion?
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Yes. So do we, if we, never mind, I don't want to do that, never mind. I thought it through.
Any other council? I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
And the next item on our agenda is committee reports. And is there anyone that has committee report to deliver? Councilmember Chance.
Yeah, just real quick. We've talked about this bridge on 741 for a long time, or in Kings Mills exit, and I just want to thank Kurt for your hard work in getting that done. You've made a lot of people very happy. And for some reason, this bridge with the Mason sign over top, I bet I've had more calls on that than I have almost anything. But it's wild because I recognized at one time we have some friends that live up off 123, and every time we'd come back, sorry, honey, I'm gonna throw you underneath the bus here a little bit. My wife would always complain about it. Like, I'm trying. Like, governments don't move very fast, but we were deliberate. We got it done, and it looks good. So thank you for that.
Thank you. The thanks should go to Steve Cadell.
Well, Steve, thank you for your
Very good.
nice work. No, Councilmember Bradburn and I were really working hard to get that done.
I didn't know if the calls were before or after the sign got.
Before.
Okay.
Way before.
Vice Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Nelson.
So the Veterans Committee met, and we are really excited. We talked about our Gold Star Family Memorial. We looked at that, and we're still working on that. It's very exciting. And also, we reviewed the information for Veterans Day. Do you want to do downtown?
We also had a downtown committee meeting, and we spoke, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Vice Mayor, may I just add to the Veterans
Yes,
Board?
Councilmember Strickler.
Quickly, thank you. One thing that we touched on, aside from the Veterans event on Thursday, was I received an email with a 3D model of our Veterans Memorial outside from a resident who decided to just went, and I can't remember the software that I used, but it's actually really impressive. We're reviewing that right now to make sure all the information is accurate, but we're hopefully going to get that up on the website and have that available as well soon. So I appreciate, and we'll make a better recognition of that resident at the time. So, but just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Very good. Councilmember Honorlaw.
Yes, I just want to say, as chair of the downtown, we did have a meeting on the 28th. We had, I believe it was Jay with Stewart Company, or was his last name was Stewart, Jay Stewart. And he's one of the planners that did Milford and I believe he did Loveland. He kept referring to Milford and Loveland's downtowns, although I think Yarden Company did Loveland. But so he was able to come. He talked a lot. He filled the hour with all kinds of information, fascinating. But he kept helping us decide what we wanted and helped us get some questions prepped. I did ask him the couple questions that I asked even the yard company. One is, if we do have a plan, what will that do to property values? Because I just think that's an overwhelming question. And he answered the same way, that having a plan does pose a risk of raising property values, which could hinder downtown development. And then, let's see, there was another point. He also said that actually what we just tabled tonight was that zoning goes before planning. Those are the two notes I had. But he went into great depth. I have a lot of notes here, but I thought that was very helpful to have. And I also, at the Veterans Board meeting, Josh did have a gentleman come forward. Thank you for doing that. And I think this would be really interesting to see what this 3D design will be. So I appreciate that.
Very good. And on behalf of the Finance Committee, I would say that we had a Finance Committee meeting tonight. We are working on the budget for this year, and to advise council, I would anticipate we're going to have a proposed budget for adoption at the next meeting, which I think we moved from the 22nd to the 29th. So we will be working feverishly to get that budget done and approved. And I just want to make council aware that it's in process and we're working on it. Certainly, we'll be sending out some emails to get you drafts and get your input as we work to finalize it. I would maybe lean on our city manager to kind of address some of the issues we talked about in committee meeting.
We actually made substantial progress, I felt, this afternoon, and on reflection, that's likely because much of the budget is things we've talked about before, things that have been ongoing with time delays in COVID. Much of it is in progress. We talked about sometimes when the funds are available, the time isn't, and the budget starts to reflect that, less the scarcity of dollars as the scarcity of time. So I think with some great progress, Joe has plenty to do to keep him occupied for a week. We'll be aiming for that following week before Thanksgiving to be giving some drafts to all of council, if not all of the budget detail, at least some of the high perspective of things that are included in the budget, with that caution that we're budgeting for them in terms of dollars, if not necessarily in time. So there's some that'll probably be kind of on the bubble if opportunities present themselves. So we're hopeful to at least get some of those sketch of drafts out to all of council in a little over a week.
Yeah, and I would, let me add to so we had discussions with Joe about city finances and coming out of COVID, where is the city in terms of revenue and expenses, and that's still somewhat in flux. He didn't have a real good handle on that, but I would advise council that we've urged him to take a very conservative approach. We're looking at estimating revenues at a 2019 level and keeping the budget within those parameters, so that it's going to be pretty conservative driven budget, and we'll look to see where revenues go in the future in terms of what may be available to council. But the budget, I think it's going to be brought to you, is going to be based on a 2019 projection, and then give some time to see where things go in the future. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And is there any other committee reports? Any old or new business? Councilmember Chance.
We passed up with the Kleinger's group. Kurt, this is probably directed towards you. I really enjoyed, I mean, to Councilmember Bradburn's point, that's a large number for landscaping, and I understand it's a long corridor and it's signs and it's, are they gonna give us samples to look at, like multiple, like we did with the pool? We had choices, and it was kind of a design element that we were able to just kind of look through and just kind of give us an idea of what they're proposing.
Yeah, we have some of that. What they'll do is it'll be consistent with what's about to be constructed now. So there'll be consistent look and feel to the landscaping. There is, I have a map, but there's some substantial areas if you're going northbound. You know how, as you get on the highway from Western Road, you get on southbound from like the eastern side of the bridge. Yeah, so not from Innovation, but the other, where that ramp swoops around. There's a large area there that's a pretty significant area that we can make an impact as you're driving up the highway. Another one is the loop ramp. So as you're going eastbound on Western Row and you go northbound on the highway, while you're going around that curve, there's an impact that we can make as well there. What the work that's about to start right now is right at the bridge, where it already says Mason on the bridge over Western Road. We want to have some impact on the area surrounding that, and then along the front of what used to be the Sea Pine building. And so those are kind of the main impact areas now. This will be consistent with that and the rest of the design, but it'll be where we can have biddable documents. And just because you're designing it all doesn't mean you have to install $2.5 million worth. We could just do a piece of it and wait 10 years and not do the next piece for 10 years. So you're not committed to $2.5 million. It's just that's what the design will encompass, all of it.
Yeah, the reason why I ask, we're always kind of compared to Dublin. And if you go up to Dublin, some of the landscaping they have, like, it's some of the businesses, some of the names spelled out in the landscaping. I was just curious if we're looking at anything like that. It's for me, it's aesthetically pleasing. Some might not like it, but just.
And one thing I left out that Michelle would probably hate me for is that we have 60 acres there that the city owns. That's in a strategic spot, and having some easily identifiable landscaping at that interchange could enhance that property as well. So I think just keep that in mind to some of our business partners that we have down there as well. So,
if I could add a little bit to Kurt's, keep in mind as part of the interchange project, we made some reassurances and commitments to business partners, not with any set timeline, but that we would make progress to be more like Dublin's landscaping. And so that's what you saw tonight. Some of the design, the theming is already done. Kurt needs documents that we can go out and start taking on those other phases. The total dollar amount, I wouldn't say we can wait 10 years between phases, but we just need to demonstrate to our partners that we remain committed to those assurances, so making incremental progress.
Anyone else have anything for old or new business?
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes. So last week on Friday, the U.S. House of Representatives passed an Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, otherwise known as the IIJA. It's a $1.2 trillion package, and it includes $550 billion over 5 years in new federal investments for infrastructure nationwide. This bill will also add an estimated 2 million jobs per year to the national economy. Ohio will be receiving the following infrastructure investment dollars: $9.2 billion for Ohio's roads and highways, approximately $500 million to assist with bridge repairs, and $12.5 billion available for competitive grants, at least $100 million to expand broadband, $1.4 billion for water infrastructure, $1.2 trillion for public transportation, $253 million for airport improvements, and $140 million for electric vehicle charging networks within the state. When we receive more information on how the funds will be distributed to Mason and when Mason will be able to access those funds, I will make sure to keep everyone informed. But that's good news for everyone.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have one more thing.
Yes.
So there is a new Mason Symphony Orchestra, and I had the pleasure of meeting with this lady last week. And it is a regional community orchestra of trained volunteer musicians, which perform at a professional level. They perform symphony music as well as popular classics. Their mission is to enrich the culture of the area and provide entertainment and uplifting experiences for the people of Mason. They are holding their first performance the day after Christmas in Mason for a holiday classics performance. It's at 7:30 on Saturday, December 4th at Mason First United Methodist Church on Mason Montgomery Road. And it's $10 for adults, $5 for students, and children 6 and under are for free. There's going to be a holiday classic concert, which will feature the Mason Chorale and Hallelujah Ringers. And there's going to be trumpeters, sopranos, harp soloists, and Christmas caroling for the audience to sing along. So this is just, it's wonderful for our community. I'm passionate about the arts, and I'm determined to bring more arts into our community. And that's how this lady got a hold of me. And I'm super excited about it. And as of right now, they're going to be hosting 3 performances per year. I believe the next one is the day before Valentine's Day, and then I believe it's the day before Mother's Day, but I'll make sure to update you and give you all the details on that.
Very good. Any other old and new business? Councilmember Honolaw, then Councilmember Honolaw.
So that's exciting news that Councilmember Nelson said. I'm hoping that she was able to connect them with the MAC, the Mason, I don't know if they're still called the MAC, the Mason Arts Council, so that they could get connected and be a part of what they're doing there if they're here local. I'm not sure if she's still a part of the on their nonprofit board or not, but what I didn't notice earlier was that Mr. Lorchman had brought up, obviously, what the delay, it seems like, with the downtown overlay, zoning overlay being tabled tonight. He made it obvious that it is political. The delay is to get the new council in. I think that it's pretty much that some members of council have repeatedly said that they have decided
Point of order.
to hand
Point of order.
the power
Vice Mayor.
of responsibility.
I'm sorry. This is I understand, but this is campaign related, not city business. Can we dispense with this? And
Well, is it related to the tabling?
It's related to the ordinance we voted on tonight. And actually, old new news, I think I get to discuss this. So I'm sorry that it's already, the silencing has begun. But it just seems like it's been obvious to me that there's been a quid pro quo with a special interest group who was here tonight, and they had their developer here tonight, and they had their members here tonight, all pushing for this delay for 2 weeks for Wind Chamber. I don't know why, other than that I've heard the rumors that hopefully they'll show up. They'll show up at the next council meeting, because I'd like to hear the answers to it. But what it really will be the rumors of hearing that that developer and others are actually trying to now buy property downtown. So they have their own plan they want to do, and that's what this is all about. So yeah, but yes, I do. So that's why I want to hear the answers. But they had there's certain properties have been downtown properties have been approached evidently about about selling their property to the CDC and the special interest group. So, and what's amazing is that we've had, for the last months, we've had certain members of this council repeatedly want to turn over the power of the council to the CDC, and that's why it's like a quid.
Vice Mayor, point of order.
They want to be
And,
able
I mean,
to.
this has nothing to do with.
If I can just finish my thought, I'll be done here. So the point is that if you can get the CDC or the chamber to support you, and then they get their candidates elected, then these candidates will then hand money over to the chamber and the CDC. And that's exactly what's going to happen here.
All right, we're going to.
So we'll find
Mayor,
out soon.
I'd like to call them.
I also, my final thought is I want to give congratulations to the organized Progressive Standing United that are still here tonight, and the other Democrats. Thank you. I want to congratulate you on getting your candidates elected tonight. And so all the Democrats, you're welcome. So
right.
You got your candidates elected tonight. There was a statewide issue to turn Mason blue, and you did that on Tuesday. Congratulations.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next item on our agenda, which is item 23 is recognition of visitors. And anyone want to speak? Mr. Lortzman?
Al Lurtzman, 7343 Red Oak Court, Mason, Ohio. Mr. Onalor, you have no idea what I am registered to vote, what party, yet you're calling me a liberal Democrat. You are also twisting my words. I did not say that the delay was political. I suggested that you, as opposed to the rest of the council, were in a big hurry to get this voted for some reason. Maybe you have a political reason for it. That's enough of that. I would like to take a minute on a different note to thank Ms. Ayer for being very receptive, very prompt in responding to my emailed requests for documents. I really appreciate it. I think it's only fair you get recognition after Mr. Hansen did. You both deserve it. I am a little bit concerned living close to the interchange of 71 and Mason and Western Row Road about spending $2.5 million there. There already is a big sign on both sides of that overpass that says Mason. How can you miss the fact that you're in Mason? Okay? I'm also wondering about the fact that I know that when that interchange was being planned, there were a lot of environmental impact studies done. And are they being taken into account in all of this landscaping that's going to occur? I mean, it just seemed like they had a hard time avoiding all of those impacts. I remember seeing things about specific trees that have bats in them, and I wonder if that kind of stuff is, you know, being taken into account here. And that's about it.
Thank you,
Mr. Onalaw, I suggest you listen to what the voters said and just go away, be quiet, do your thing, and stop inflicting yourself on Mason.
Anyone else wishing to address council tonight? Yes. If you could state your name again for the record.
Jennifer Treppel, Lakeside Subdivision across the street. Mr. Seiler, you were talking about the landscaping at Western Row and Innovation Way. I didn't think I heard the word ODOT mentioned, so I assume they're not involved. But I do want to ask, have any of the signs out there been changed from when you are going from Innovation Way to 71 South?
From Innovation Way, which direction?
Turn right on Tylersville on Innovation Way, go left onto 71 South.
The signs, I don't think so. We did adjust some of the signal heads at that interchange. Some of the signal heads as you went southbound on Innovation Way, we had some issues with the signals, the location where they were on the mast arm. So, but I don't think any signs were changed.
The reason I ask is the first time I went out there after that was open, I made the left and there were 2 lanes. And I said, good, I got in the right-hand lane, because that's where I wanted to be, and I got up over the hill, and all of a sudden, the lane ended.
Yeah.
There is a sign, but I was way past that sign before I realized that my lane ended. And you can't tell because of the way the hill goes up that it's going to end. I know now, but a new visitor to Mason would not have that realization. Maybe it could be checked out.
And your previous question, ODOT is involved.
Oh.
City approved a maintenance agreement with ODOT, and it's incremental as well. So anytime we're working in the limited access right-of-way, we have to get their approval on the drawings, which is part of Kleininger's work as well, is to coordinate with ODOT on that work.
Okay, thank you. I had another item that I was going to bring up this evening until I heard too many people making ungracious comments. But I heard some ungracious comments during the council old and new business, so I am going to bring it up. In this past election cycle, I had a very heavy heart. And I'll tell you why. I thought it was pretty ugly. The city charter says that all petitions to submit yourself as a candidate, all ballots, and all ballot labels, and quoting the charter directly, shall be without party mark or designation. Without party mark or designation. By this language, I think it would be safe to say that the originators of the city charter did not want party politics to govern our city. They simply wanted people who had the best interests of Mason at heart. It didn't matter what party you belonged to, as long as you loved your community and made your decisions based on the good of the city and its citizens. The first election for city council members under this new charter was 1971. That means this year marked the 50th anniversary of that first election, and look where we are now. We are divided by party politics. Our neighbors are wary of neighbors with opposing views. People are choosing where they shop more carefully based on the political sentiments of the owners of the stores. Intolerance is up. Our family-friendly city is losing its way. Political party affiliations, and I'm addressing both Republicans and Democrats here, whoever you may be, need to disappear during the local elections. Party endorsements, PAC endorsements, personal agendas have no place here. Last month, in our household, we got 34 postcards. Just about the council election, that doesn't count school board. Almost 40% of them listed endorsements by the Republican Party and or Right to Life. In a nonpartisan election? Really? Another quarter of them look like they came from the city because they used the city logo, even though they didn't come from the city. I found it ironic that most of them said, "Do not vote for those who try to fool the public." And I laughed right out loud when I saw this deceiving one, "Deception matters." Well, we changed the logo to red and blue for Republican Party, but still. And then this one claimed that some candidates were Democrat PAC endorsed liberals. We should all be so lucky. Bipartisan support. Past council members and city officials spent years building a reputation for Mason as a pro-family, pro-business city. Once we lose that reputation, it'll take years to recover it. I urge everyone, whether elected or not, to set party politics aside, to work together, and to reunite our city. City council should not be taking on national and state party level issues. We each should look for candidates who will set party politics aside, set personal agendas aside, and work to best serve our community. Political party and PAC endorsements should not be sought, should not be made, and should not matter.
Anyone else wishing to address council tonight? Any other?
Mayor, if you're before we wrap up, I would like to ask for an executive session to be added to the agenda.
Okay, so we need, for what purpose?
Pending litigation and acquisition disposition of property.
So we need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of addressing acquisition disposition?
Of property and imminent litigation.
All right. Do we have such a motion?
I'll make that motion, but with that motion, I see our two council elects. Can we invite them into
Yes.
executive session?
That'd be-
We've done that in the past, correct?
Yes.
During the
If
transition?
council agrees, you can invite.
I agree. Because I was given that same privilege.
You good with that? No problem. All right. Are you two good with that? No? I might not blame you.
They can't speak. They can't speak. They just sit in.
Yes, and I was about to say, I do not expect any action will be taken after legislation, or after the executive session.
So do we have a motion to adjourn into executive session for those purposes?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
We need roll call? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gil?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw?
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.